And I feel like I say this every week, but I'm gonna have to update that intro because that's a much younger me than the me of tonight. But hello, everyone. It's Saturday night, which means it is time for the Weekly Dig. For anyone new to the stream, it's a live show where we dig into anime, old and new. I'm Brent. These are my fantabulous co-hosts, John. Say hi, John.
Hey. Hi, John.
And Steve. Say hi, Steve.
Hello, Steve. And everyone else.
And all y'all.
And all y'all wonderful...
All you beautiful people in Chatland.
Exactly. And we are here, finally, after a long road, to talk about the final Evangelion rebuild film, 3.0 plus 1.0.
Okay.
Oh,
Made
yeah.
it through.
Yeah, exactly.
The final, the last one, the never to be seen again, no more.
Well,
Franchise ended.
We'll get
The
there
end.
because I strongly,
It's not the
if any
No.
Eva fan comes to me and says, "Oh, clearly Anno wants to do more with this and is much more interested in Evangelion," I'm like, did you watch the movie? Like, did you see that ending? Because it is very clear to me from the end of this movie that Anno is like, stop watching the damn cartoon and go outside.
Get out of the robot.
Yes, very much so.
Much like Shinji, it's time for you to grow up.
Yes.
Well, see, that's where I think the ending is the reason that that he did that is that Eva is now going to become a rom-com is set in high school.
Yeah.
So that's the entire conversion. It's like no more Evas.
Yeah.
It's all a rom-com now.
There we
Good.
go.
Sweet.
Yeah, and it's interesting because of just where this movie goes.
Yes.
Because it's kind of like they took the end of Evangelion film and then inserted a Studio Ghibli film into the middle of it. And there's just so many weird decisions being made in the film. Weird in a good way. It's a very interesting film. But it starts, it should be noted, with a pretty lengthy montage sequence reviewing what happened in the previous films.
Yeah.
And I was initially surprised.
Because if you're an Eva fan, you would never know what would happen.
Well,
Yeah.
this is the thing, is that, I was surprised by this, and then I realized that, if you had been so overjoyed about EVA 3.0 coming out, that you had gone out and gotten someone pregnant, or gotten pregnant that night, when this movie came out, your child would be in 3rd grade. There was a 9-year gap between these two movies.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, you probably would want a little refresher on all of the little bits and pieces that had occurred over the past couple of movies.
Oh, a true Eva fan would have been watching
sure.
the discs of the films and the
Of course.
series till the discs burned out.
Right, but that's the other interesting thing about this movie, which I'm sure we'll talk about. These movies are not made purely for those hardcore Eva fans.
Yeah, I mean, this is accessible.
Very much so.
And visually impressive enough that you're not, I don't think, the non-hardcore Evas would be like, oh, I don't know, it's kind of, no, it's visually interesting.
Sure.
It's a fun ride to watch. A little trippy, but
just a little trippy.
just tad.
Yeah, exactly. So we start with the whole assault on Paris, and that whole fight scene. We get more of Mari, which I'll never complain about.
Yep.
More Mari, please, all the time.
And I liked having Paris.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was a
The
fun
world's
thing.
not Tokyo 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, there's other places out there.
Imagine
Neat.
that. And it's always interesting seeing how these movies start and what they do, because it gets big real fast.
Oh, yeah.
Just the kind of absurdity of all of these particular angels they're fighting, and how Mari is, just gunning them down in spirals around her. Definitely a lot bigger than a lot of the fights we saw in, you think back to, episode 1 of the TV series. It's 1. And we're just fighting the 1. Wow.
Well, they made some very, like, I thought it was really interesting choices for this initial how the angels look. It's not a giant floating diamond. It's not a kind of like bed bug with tentacles.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, the angels now are like kind of sort of look like mass-produced robot people.
Yeah.
Like, this is really very technical. I'm like,
well, I mean, and that's the point that they were trying to make, is that the angels are no longer really angels. It's Gendo's creations, and he's taken the angels and he's modified them to do just that, to be able to be mass produced.
Yeah.
Because he realized that, okay, one big super angel that's gonna like really move around slowly is not gonna do it. So let's make these tiny little things, smaller things, and a lot more of them, because I have all this stuff that I can create these things from. Whereas if you notice, Mari is flying in a very disabled Ava. That has to be jury rigged.
Yeah.
And the jury rig itself was very interesting, I thought.
Yeah. I've loved the control scheme where she's like turning the cranks, to spin it around.
Like it's a dump truck.
Well,
Right.
like it's a 70s super robot mecha, very much of those classic old controls.
Well, and the arms to the piece she's using are like industrial robots.
Oh, very much so. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Very
so
Pat
it's just
Labor,
like
actually.
that's when she's like, looking to one side, she's spinning the wheel. I'm just like, my goodness, it's like we went to the dockyard. Like, we don't have any EVA parts. Let's just like scavenge dockyard parts. Like, okay.
Well, and
Which, I mean, they have all these boats, so that would make some good sense.
well, and it's also interesting because I think that also is kind of hinting at where they go later on. That is exactly what they're doing. They're finding all of these pieces around that are kind of around. Very good at parallel parking, as Patrick points out.
Just gonna park my EVA right here.
But yeah, I also want to talk a little bit about the design, because I think it is interesting for the angels how not only are they mass produced, it's this interesting sort of mutated hybrid approach where, like, the original Evas, you could certainly mass produce kind of those designs and kind of replicate them, but instead having kind of fusing Evas in kind of the weird sort of grotesque style of the Evas with the very sort of industrialized robot things, making them even creepier in a weird way. Which I think was a neat way of kind of upping the ante in this.
Well, was it D-Side Tromeri that we watched as a oh god, it was like season, it might have been 2 seasons ago, so it might have been like spring.
Yeah.
And they had those weird looking monsters that had like women's dancer legs and then
And then the
fruit
bouquet
top.
of flowers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bouquet of flowers. That's what this reminded me of. And I'm just like, oh god, they're gonna do something terrible. I don't know what, but that's something terrible.
Absolutely.
Just it's that the vaguely familiar part of like an Eva body, and then like all kinds of really weird stuff else going on. Like,
which again I think is a fairly brilliant hint at what we'd see in Gendo later on.
yeah.
Oh, it's just Gendo. Well, actually,
Gendo's just doing fine.
Gendo's just doing fine.
Daijoubu?
Yeah.
Yes. Sure.
And of course, there's the
So-
absurdity of
No, I was just gonna say, what of the many things that were going on in the first scene? First of all, Paris is red, and has a really amazing sharp monochrome color to it. And then you learn about the thing that they're trying to do to make it not red,
Yeah.
and to get the spare parts and all that stuff. And as she's fighting off the swarm of new Ava angels, whatever you want to call them, they have this thing on top of another thing, and it looks like an A-bomb,
yeah.
right? And it's just a bomb-looking thing, and it even has the little, I don't know what they're called. I want to say propellers, but they're not propellers, but on the back of it. And I was just like going, wow, or this is a new inventive way to say, hey, we're going to let off a bomb, but it's not going to be, a nuclear bomb per se.
Yeah.
But it was
It's a
just-
reflex weapon, right?
Yeah.
My guess.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's not an atomic bomb. It's an N2 mine.
Yes, exactly. Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Very different. Which, by the way, for those curious what we're talking about, like there are actual broadcast standards in Japan about like what you can or can't say about the atomic bomb, or there were until recently. So a lot of things people had to kind of get around to say, well, this isn't actually what we're talking about, but we're really talking about that. But yeah, and then of course the wonderful absurdity of using the Eiffel Tower to take down an angel.
Yeah.
Wonderfully kind of
That's a
absurd.
Higurashi.
Yeah. Well, it's wonderfully Mari. That's
It's
something
yes.
Mari.
Yeah.
Asuka, I think, would just tear at it by hand. Shinji, I don't even know what he would do, but
Yeah.
definitely a Mari thing, just like cram it in there until it can break the field down. Like, damn.
She's the beast.
Yes, and I got the feeling that the weapon that the
Evangeline,
Evangeline gun is using, it reminded me of the sniper gun.
Yeah.
Where they were trying to
True.
like take
Yeah,
out,
good point.
in the other film. So it's just like interesting. So Gendo's like cycling through the schematics and like adding plussing things, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that worked. Let's use that again.
Yeah.
It just almost felt like that he was going like, periodically go through the spin the wheel of the angel part, saying it just kind of goes, okay, we'll put that with that. Oh, that should be horrifying. Great.
It's almost like he's slightly unhinged.
It's almost as something was
Ever so
on his mind.
Ah.
He had a very particular vision.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a good
One
point,
would
Patrick.
say narrow almost.
It's a good point, Patrick.
I
I don't
didn't
think
see that comment coming.
It's a good point, Patrick.
Well, you should have said,
She apologized that she's mangling it.
Yes. I appreciate that, Patrick. That she's, it is a cultural landmark.
Well, it's another one of those Eva things where it's like they're saving and destroying everything in the process of saving.
Yep,
It's just like, the icon of Paris might be destroyed, but they have now liberated in some small measure with this device. They've
Right.
liberated a piece of Paris now.
There are a few Renaults left, which is great.
Yeah. They've got some Gauguin, some Auguste Rodin. They're fine.
Hopefully.
I'm just concerned about the wine. That's all.
Well, and apparently, when Anno was working on the film, or had or was planning to work in the film, he was unable to go to Japan Expo 2019 because of delays in producing the film, and that was going to be held in Paris. So who knows if that was kind of a bit of a thing. He was like, if I can't go, then I'll at least put it in my anime.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we're back to. And I'll be honest, when we then cut back to the three pilots trudging along, I was like, oh yeah, this happened. Oh yeah, these three. I'd completely forgotten that they're trudging through a barren red hellscape.
Yeah.
Which they very much do. I should also point out, I watched this on Amazon Prime Video, and they really turned down the contrast. It was downright hard to. It was basically black for some of these shots. So be aware, depending on where you're watching it. I like some of these shots. Like I'm scrubbing back now through this video, and I'm like, oh, that's what was on screen. Good to know.
Only someone had a flashlight.
Exactly, totally. And so we finally get our return to these characters, and here's where, again, suddenly it's like we get some interesting revelations. Toji, for one.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, this entire segment of them in this using the train yards, because I'm a train fanatic, using this train yard as the village or whatever. That whole from beginning to end, where they're in there, that was my favorite part of the movie. Was that whole little building and seeing Toji, a grown-up Toji. I was just like, oh, good, he's not dead.
Yeah.
I actually didn't want him to be dead. I didn't.
Agreed,
Really,
totally.
really didn't want him to be dead. So I was happy to see him.
And it was weird how, like, they never acknowledged the whole thing of, like, Shinji got Toji's shirt. And we still don't know the connection there. I agree with what we came up with last time. But it's interesting that they didn't address that in this film. And yeah, and we.
And I'm assuming they didn't forget. I mean,
Right?
you know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah,
They
I
should've-
mean, they gave him his jumpsuit, Toji's old jumpsuit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's definitely plenty of other elements that they very much wove in to this movie. It's not like, oh yeah, they wasn't just forgotten. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we get, and this is like this Ghibli film sort of inserted in the middle of everything, where it's just people kind of living within the apocalypse and just going about their normal lives, seeing a pregnant woman and all of the implications of that.
And pregnant cat.
Pregnant cat, absolutely.
You know, which just was an interesting point where Ray's kind of wandering around. She's like, "What's that?" I'm
Yeah.
like, "You've never? Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. The Ray you are probably would never have had a reason to
Right.
see a cat or a dog
No.
or a bird."
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And I liked this part too, Steve, because we get to see people in Tokyo 3 when crap is breaking out and going on and people running to shelters, but we don't
Right.
really we don't get a slice of what are these people living in this hellscape? What does this look like?
Yeah.
How do you survive in this when everything's gone to hell in a handbasket? And it's like, that's kind of nice. Thank you. You finally give us an idea of what people are doing while everything else is going wrong.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, and so we get to see, quite a few characters, and this is where my heart started to unclench a little bit for this movie, because I was a little worried, obviously coming into the final review of the movie. I was like, where are they going to go with this? Like, how weird is it going to get? And the answer was yes. But having them come back to all of these characters and say, no, it felt kind of like fan fiction. Where it's like, everyone's kind of got together and they're all doing things. I'm like, thank you. Like, I'm glad to know that some of these characters got together and that they found their happiness. Like, oh, there's a heart to this film. Yay.
If they're not all dead, awesome.
Yes. or hate each other or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we get, like you say, a lot of this kind of slice of life.
Yeah, like the the friend who punches Shinji ends up marrying the class rep. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh boy, this is a slice of life, right? Here.
Absolutely.
And one of the best scenes in the movie where Ray comes up and touches
Pokes
the
the
baby and pokes the baby, and then just has this sudden realization, oh my god, this is so cute. Like she's just melting.
Well, and it's interesting how, and I think somebody in the chat mentioned this, how this is not Rei Ayanami.
Yeah,
And they do a really good job of presenting her as this very, blank slate, experiencing all these things for the first time and having a different reaction than Rei did to a lot of things. And you do kind of get sucked into her world to an extent of seeing these things with fresh eyes, but not from the eyes of somebody who is, oh, isn't this wonderful? She's just absorbing. That's all she's doing. It's really interesting. I also just love the juxtaposition here, where they show Rei reacting to how cute it is, and you still see Shinji in the background, still curled up, and the idea that Rei is, engaging with the world and interacting, and that's clearly what Shinji needs, but he's just not there yet.
So not there.
No.
which I think from a plot point, putting Shinji's classmates and
Yeah.
acquaintances. I don't know that they were friends, but
Toji did
at least
definitely,
I mean, at least close acquaintances. That provides a nice way to start to draw Shinji out while you're doing this.
Yeah.
Versus if they were all dead and you were trying to
Yeah.
motivate Shinji, like, I have to get revenge for my friends who died. It's like, no, that wouldn't have worked as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it just you needed them around just doing things so that he could slowly but surely come back up out of the depths.
Well, and I think if Evangelion is because you're absolutely right. I think if Evangelion is kind of an analysis of depression or kind of a study of depression, this movie so well models how to behave with somebody who has depression, where you give them space, you kind of let them be who they are, while also showing them kindness. You don't just say, go off into a corner and come back to me later. you're still, being as connected as you can be in as much as they allow. And
which they kind of use the father figure when they're like, "Hey, Shinji, there's food." The father figure's like, "You should get over here. You should be grateful for it." And they're like, "No, no, no.
Yeah.
Just let him eat what he wants to eat. Give him some food. Food bar things.
Yeah.
Just let him be. He'll come around when he comes around."
Some calorie mate.
Yeah. That solves everything.
Pretty much, yes. And of course, Suzuhara shows up. Just like, yes! One of my favorite characters from the original TV series. And again, just seeing him as this kind of confident adult who's turned into a tinkerer, maker, kind of engineer type. It's a lot of fun.
I was hoping for more of a love angle with Asuka.
I was feeling that too.
Really was. I'm like, oh, come on.
I want to
let this be the love moment for Asuka.
Because note, and I had to come across this in something where I was, Asuka's not in love with Kaji. They completely erased that plot line in the Rebuild movies. So I totally think it could have been there. Now I think they lay in enough little hints there that you could totally write that fanfic.
Yeah.
With Suzuhara. But you're right. There's definitely not much there. Although I think this movie has a pretty strong opinion of Asuka. And it's not particularly positive, frankly.
No.
But, I think they made a point to her saying to Shinji, "I used to like you."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like, so I was waiting for that, moment to be like, because now I love him. Be like, yes!
Yeah.
I'll ship that. But it never happened.
No.
At least until 4.2.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I do also appreciate how when he sees the collar on Asuka, that is kind of his first trigger.
Yeah.
Of seeing that and makes him throw up and so forth. And that idea of, that's kind of the trigger for his trauma. And how kind of paradoxically, like, he needs that to just kind of have his first interaction with somebody, really.
Yeah.
And that kind of starts to go somewhere with him. And then we get, again, more of this. Some fan service. A lot of fan service, actually, with Asuka.
You have to draw the people in.
Exactly, yes. With panty-clad 14-year-old girls.
She's actually much older than that. 14 years went by, so she's like 30.
Right, yeah. Sure. Right, yeah. That makes it all fine.
Makes it all good.
Makes it all better. They're not actually brother and sister, so it's fine.
Right, yeah, exactly. Well, a sister's all you need.
Oh, boy.
Can we talk about the rice planting scene? Because,
Sure.
My
Yeah.
gosh, did they put effort into this scene?
Yes, they did. So all the tools involved in, planting rice. Like, was somebody obsessed that day or something? That day. That 6 to 8 months.
Right.
I really like rice. Let's talk about rice. Rice is a good thing. Guys, shut up about rice.
Why do you think this is in here?
Raised nurturing. She's experienced the baby. She's kind of getting this kind of... It's hard to gauge a lot of her emotional state because it's gray.
Right.
But you kind of get that nothing else in her experience has provided this kind of stimulus. She's seen a baby. Yeah. She's seen some people who are pregnant. She sees a pregnant cat. The idea of how you have to carefully plant the rice, how you have to lay things out. And it's like she's learning the sort of functions of life that she has been wholly bereft of as this, pilot construct clone person. So I think it's her journey to understanding more about what it means to live and what it means to live as a person, not just a pilot. So that's what I took away from that.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
It was, it's just her learning, like you say, learning how to be human because she's asking questions all the time. Why do you say this? Why does this happen? Why does this happen? This thing, and she has an attachment to the child because that's Yui's, Yui in her coming out,
yeah.
and it's going, oh, it's a child. That this is there's resonance there, and planting the rice, when she turns to Tang later on, she talks about that should have been her name. That's what
Yeah.
Tang.
Oh, Tang. She goes, I really wanted to watch the rice harvest. And I think that was part of her saying, I don't know that I can have a child, because that's something you see towards the end as well.
Yeah.
She's talking about how this captured her interest because she understands that she's planting a seed. This thing is going to grow and there's going to be benefit from it. And so I think that's kind of her attachment to not necessarily child rearing or childbearing, but just that interest of knowing this is life. This is how life progresses. This is how we grow old. This is what I want to do, because she understands when she sees the thing on her wrist.
Yeah,
She knows what's going to happen. Yeah. She knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So she's just like going, well, this is what I have to make the most of in my life. So this is what I have to do.
Yeah. I love all
And she's
that.
happy with that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that all totally makes sense. There's also a certain almost like fetishization of the outdoors, of, experiencing nature and so forth. Again, very
Yes.
Ghibli-esque of look at how beautiful these vegetables are, which is very not Evangelion. But I love it. Just
Well, we had Kaji with his watermelons.
that's true. That is
Right.
true.
So
yeah.
it's in there, but I think that also speaks to the cultural element of the Japanese, that with nature and trying to get along with it, to get not only the things you need to eat, but also the things that you want to appreciate, retain the beauty of it. It's like, so that kind of carries through.
Yeah.
It was just really interesting. Like, I never knew that much about rice, about the little beans and like how
Right,
it
yeah.
steaks up.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
damn, this should be an educational film. I learned a thing or three.
There we are. And of course we could, and I love this. I do think this is the filmmakers being a little, kind of tweaking their nose at the audience a little bit, where we get a bathhouse scene with Rey, multiple times. And we never see her move more than like this up, It's just like, nope, we're not going to do that this time. Which is just, I just think was kind of funny. Yeah, and then we get obviously more of this whole sequence. And it's interesting.
Didn't we point it out last time about like their plug suits don't get washed?
No.
Oh,
Right,
boy.
yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah.
oh man. It's great you're taking a bath, but you're like sliding back into that skin, and it's just like, dude, no way. Oh,
Exactly. So we obviously weave more of what's going on, and then Asuka snaps, and I found this a really interesting scene because they obviously like handed this to an animator to like do full scale Sakuga animation on this shot. This is clearly like a specific animator's style to show how Asuka is kind of gets really pissed off at Shinji and force feeds him food, which I'm sure is something
without killing him, which is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I found it to be kind of not quite out of place, but I wasn't quite sure what purpose this scene served. Because I'm pretty familiar with what Asuka thinks of Shinji by this point. Mm-hmm. They've done a really solid job of explaining that. I'm also very clear that Shinji is being very passive and quiet and traumatized at this point. So I don't know. The scene just kind of felt a little unnecessary to me. What do you guys think?
Well, it felt almost like the therapy for people who are afraid of heights, where you put a VR helmet on them and you make them walk a virtual tightrope, and you like expose them to the thing that's like, gonna traumatize them. He's not exposed other than the collar.
Right. Yeah.
But now is the point where it's like, okay, you moped around, people left you alone, people left you food you wouldn't eat, you've moved out of the other house, and now you're just on a tarpaulin here in a corner, and now is the time where you've had enough time, and it's time to wake up and get going again. And it's like, not the best way to go if you're not like a licensed counselor, but it's like, this is I think it's within the consistency of her character.
Sure.
Trying to get a result and not knowing, like, you know, the kind of gentle massaging way to get there. This is Asuka full bore. Stop being a wuss. Eat the food, damn it, and stop like sitting here like a lump. And I think that's consistent for her character, and it's disturbing as hell to watch. Like force feeding somebody.
To be clear, I completely agree that's consistent to her character. I already got that.
Right.
That had already been established for me.
So when I saw this scene, for me, this is the end of the Ghibli.
True.
Okay, because she and Rei, and presumably Shinji, knows that the ship is coming.
Yeah.
This is a place that they know that the ship is coming. It's been explained. It's been explained how they get some of the stuff that they get, some credit, that kind of thing. So they know that Masato is coming. So I'm kind of wondering. And at the end of this, she's just like, "Okay, the ship is here. You're coming. Good. All right, let's go." As if this is what was supposed to happen the entire time. So she's probably aware that the ship is about to show up at any point, and Shinji's not ready, and so she's just basically forcing him to get ready, and she just, not being the licensed therapist that she is, you know, she just does it her own way and just force feeds him, because apparently she probably understands somehow, some way, shape, or form, or has actually been given the order by Misato to make sure that Shinji is alive, and that Shinji goes through this, and that people are coming back. Because remember, Ken, or whatever his name is, the guys who becomes like Tinkerer of the village, he's watching Shinji as well. There's moments where he just kind of stops, and he has that blank face on his on him, which basically means it's like, okay, we're giving you time, you better come around. So I think everybody knows that a lot is revolving around Shinji, and Shinji needs to get his act together, and Asuka is just like, I think this is the point where I think the need for this scene, which even still I would argue with, I would kind of agree with you, Brian. I'm not sure if it's actually needed, but you know, it's just to point out that, hey, the time of healing is over. You gotta get up and do the thing, because no one else is waiting for you.
It's a transition.
Well, and I thought that when did we already go past the part where Shinji gets to go out on patrol and they're filming things around? Is this scene before that or after that? I think.
Before that.
I took that as like sort of the last effort to remind Shinji of what they're fighting for. And that he's going around, he's just doing his inspection run. Here, Shinji, here's a fishing pole. You know, you can catch fish because there's fish alive thanks to the things that, you know, that Will has done, and credit. We can fish now for food. Oh, those are headless Avas. They can't get through the field. You know, hey, Shinji, this is why we're alive. You need to. And then by the time we get to Asuka, it's like, time's up. You know, here's your therapy. Down your throat. Get up and let's go.
Not effective.
You know, and I think they did a pretty decent job about that kind of progression. Where it's gentle, and it's not producing results. At least what Asuka does then produces Shinji moving. It might not be light speed to, you know, Endor, but, you know, it's movement. He's now functional again.
I would still argue it was the wrong thing for her to do.
Oh, indeed.
But
Well, it goes back to the father. You should be grateful for the food. It's like it circles back to that, where it's like, oh no, you know, you have to like be tough with these people. It's like you can't like give in to their thinking, their way of being. You have to shock them out of it. It's like, okay, that's a very like early 20th century way to like handle people with PTSD. But
well, actually, when that scene happened, I half expected the father to yell at you, damn millennials.
Back in my day with the war. But yeah, and so Shinji goes off and kind of does the Shinji thing.
Yeah.
And we get more
And
Ghibli
Ben.
stuff. We get the power of books in the pop-up library. That was kind of
Love it. Love
I do have to give them full props for the fact that the book has a hedgehog. Like, nice callback to the series. Well done. But yeah. And so we continue with this lengthy scene. And again, to your point, I like how Rei works with Shinji here, kind of the symbolism of all this, where Rei shows up, she tries to engage Shinji. Shinji says, and I kind of like what Shinji says, where he says, "I want to be alone." Right? He doesn't like yell at Rei to say, you're dumb, you shouldn't be here. He's saying, I just need space. And how Rei just sets the food down next to him, unwraps it for him. It's easy, it's available, and then just walks away and gives him space. And that's kind of what he has. And then
Which shows a great deal of progression on her part.
Yeah,
If you
exactly.
I mean, just the whole rice plating. Why? Why? What? Why? What's this? What's going on?
Yep.
She's like, she hears what Shinji has to say.
Mm-hmm.
She cares enough to come and find him, and there's not 20 questions.
Yeah,
And she
great
goes
call
away.
out. Yep.
And it's like, okay. And Asuka, who is the ever-present sort of hanging around, observing
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
from around the walls to see that are we making any progress? What is he doing?
Yep. Our little spy there. And then more
Is Pen hanging out with him?
and more kind of Ghibli-esque images of like the mountains and the tree-covered mountains. Where I'm like, it's Totoro. Okay.
Yeah.
Not complaining, but it is interesting.
It's Totoro is an angel.
Yeah.
Oh no.
That's another theory.
Well, at least Pen did all right for himself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has his little family. And then Shinji's taken out. Kensei takes him out. This is that scene where we go out and he's shown all the different things around, and he's starting to talk, and now he's actually starting to interact a little bit, and he's obviously very reserved. That's where he gets the fishing pole. I do love that. Actually, this did stick out at me, where he gives him the fishing pole, and Shinji does the line. No, I've never done it before. I can't do it. It's like, oh, I've heard that before. And Kensei goes, just give it a try. It's fine. And I'm like, Gendo, taking notes here?
Yeah.
That's how to phrase it. Jeez. But then, of course, the joke of then, well, maybe next time,
Yeah.
Good try, but
Our quota's only one a day anyway. It's
Yeah.
okay. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll catch more tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. That's interesting. I remembered this backwards. I remembered this coming
Yeah,
before
I
Asuka's
had
trying to
done-
shove food down his throat.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I thought so too. But yeah, and I also just want to point out kind of the interesting visual metaphor of all of the imagery of Evangelion past sort of frozen in the air.
Yeah.
Hovering around.
Yeah, and just that whole idea of old Evangelion being just kind of this relic that everybody points and looks at as, oh, it's this amazing old thing, and it's like, yeah, and we're kind of trying to move past that now.
Yeah. Well, like the explanation, it's like, oh, those are the headless Evas.
Yeah.
It's like, how many are there?
Well,
Like, wow.
yeah, and I gotta say, this movie does throw tons of kind of random new Eva facts at you, where there's a point where I was like, and no, these are the new, Furon Eva types. It's like, what? Oh, okay, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know what's happening, but sure, cool.
Right.
I'll go with this.
Yeah, and then again, more development. This is where you realize Rei, as you point out, only has so much time.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I feel like this may be one of those scenes where different people react to it very differently, because it is clearly meant to be shocking. It's clearly meant to kind of pull you in, and I definitely felt for it. But I wonder if folks who aren't familiar with the Eva universe, right, would be more shocked by this than myself or us. Where I think this might have a lot more emotional weight if you're not thinking about, well, of course, Rey's a clone, of course, all these different things. We've all seen the meme of people getting turned into Tang in Evangelion. By Rey, and I don't know.
And if you follow it, you've seen the parts where, like, in Rey's little apartment, she's got all the drugs that keep her from turning into Tang.
Right. Yeah.
Before there was a plug suit that kept her from turning into Tang.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and again, the scene was effective, and I was pulled in, and I was like, oh, that sucks. But it doesn't just make me wonder if different people would have a stronger emotional reaction to the scene. I don't know.
Well, so I got annoyed.
Did you? Okay. Yeah.
The thing for Steve watching this movie, I got annoyed. So as we're going through the scene, as she's stepping back and stepping away from Shinji, she's got the knowing I'm gonna die smile, and kind of just saying, I wish I had time to do this. I wish I had time to see the harvest. I wish da 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 da. And so it's the build up that she's gonna die, because we've got this telegraphed to us like by a 2x4 that she doesn't have much time. So when it does happen, and she turns the Tang and she dies, and Shinji has the reaction of, oh God, no, and goes grabs the plug suit, and he's got the look on his face, and I think for those who are familiar with Ava, probably had the reaction which I was, which is like, please don't slip back. I can't go back to ours. Please, please, God, God, move forward.
Yeah.
And maybe I think that was the whole point of the scene is to show that Shinji is finally getting past death that he can't control. Finally.
Yeah.
But it also sets it up for the very end when Gendo goes through his 20-minute twice.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to that, and I am so annoyed. But it's interesting that what's his name, Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
says, was that your way of trying to make him feel lost, like you felt lost over Ewing? Yeah. And it's just kind of like going, okay, so that there is a purpose for that, but it really was. I think if you were not, I think you got a point there where it's like, if you're not familiar with Ava, would this have more of an emotional impact? And I think it would, insofar that here's this not Rey, learning how to be human, and you get invested in that because there's really nice scenes with that.
Yeah.
And then she dies, and you would feel upset. I think a little bit sad about that. Yeah. But for the rest of us, we're just like, what? One more corpse among many. So it's just like, okay, here we go. Yeah. Something else for the montage and Shinji's mind.
Well, I mean, when she popped, I hate to say it, literally, I'm watching. I went, oh.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I was kind of like a little taken aback at the fact that I'm like, wow, I'm just really indifferent to this moment. I don't know why am I not like, oh, she was learning and it was great. Nope. I'm like, oh.
Interesting.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely had a stronger emotional reaction to it than you guys did. Still in the same sort of general ballpark of like, I see it coming, here it comes, here it goes.
Yeah.
But I do think they did a really good job of, like you say, setting it up that she's growing, she's becoming a person, she's kind of getting there, but she's denied that. And it definitely hit me. But yeah, then there's the other aspect of, here we go. And I do wonder.
I guess that at this point, I've expected that Eva doesn't really have a lot of happy endings. So
certainly not.
that her development into a person is cut short by
and
turning into Tang. Really, it was coming.
I think
just wait for it to happen.
That gets back to our earlier point, where I think if you hadn't watched these things, you'd be way more invested in it.
Yeah.
And it would probably hit you harder than it would for us. And then bad things happen. you know, Evangelion. Bad things happen. Yeah, and to your point, I think this was one of the moments where I almost stood up and cheered when I almost said white base because basically what it is in this movie. But when their ship comes in and you cut back to Shinji and his expression here when Kensuke turns the camera, I was like, good, yes, Shinji is exactly where he should be.
Yep.
You know, determined, serious, not full of anger or whatever, but just like, okay, no, it is time for me to do the thing because it's time for you to do the thing.
I've wallowed long enough. It's now time to step up.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think also, like, beyond how much time he's wallowed, it's the idea that he's realized that things aren't going to change until he does something. That he has to be the catalyst for this change. And I love how the other characters throughout this are saying things like, I think it's Kensuke who says, you've fought enough for a lifetime. Like, we appreciate everything you've done. You can just basically retire here for the rest of your life, and no one will think bad of you for that. I just love the appreciation that shows. And indeed, there's that line earlier where he asks, why are you doing all this for me? And they say, because we like you. Ray says that. And it's just a beautiful moment of, there's so much in here, again, it's sort of about depression, this idea that, depression kind of masks what other people think of you. And Shinji feels worthless and useless, but other people don't think of him that way at all. But yes, he's back. Hallelujah.
Which, sending him over here or having him at this location really was the best R&R that he could have as a burned out Eva pilot.
Right.
Because that helped him sort of reorient, get the boat going in the right direction again.
Yep.
As much as Shinji can.
I agree, Patrick. The juxtaposition of the happy dog is a little funny, but I think also again, puppy, right? I think they are very much setting up a point where Shinji is maybe not a happy puppy, but he's more of an awake puppy perhaps than before.
Well, or he's an adult dog.
Yeah.
That through his experience, he's gone through that naive puppy phase, and now he's a little bit more jaded. Certainly,
Sure.
A lot more jaded.
Just a wee bit,
just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
But that he's grown.
Yeah. To that point, and I noticed this a little later on. He looks older.
Yeah.
And I think from this point on, they may have literally physically changed his character design, because I noticed, especially later in the movie, he looks like he's 17. Like, he very much looks more physically mature from this point on in the movie. Could be coincidence, but it seemed to me. And then he's back in the ship, doing all the things, and we
have that thing.
And we're now 58 minutes into the movie, and we proceed to have our assault on Nerve HQ, which goes on for I'm scrolling.
A long time.
I'm scrolling.
A while.
Asuka goes into beast mode half an hour later. That's how long this sequence takes.
And I, for as lengthy as this was, I fully appreciated the amount of money they just poured into this.
I know.
Where it's like, you guys want action? You guys want the thing? Here it is.
Gosh.
No expense spared. Go.
Yeah.
I'm like,
because I'll be honest. Good, please.
No, I was gonna say through the whole fight thing, the whole time I'm like thinking to myself, going, if I was an Ava pilot and this were my situational awareness surroundings, I'd be like, I'd be totally inept, because I'd just be like going, all these things going on around me.
Yeah.
And it's just like going, wow, okay. Trippy. Need to come down. Where's the brown pill? Where's the red pill? Kind of thing. But it was just so. The colors. Really threw me off. And like doing the colors.
Yeah.
Thinking 2001, and
It's
actually
full of
that's actually
stars.
what I was. That's actually what I was thinking about was
Very much so.
2001. Through the whole segment, and then there was just all the music tropes, and I was just like, really? Oh god,
Yeah.
there we go. We're
Yeah.
pulling that in. All right.
Yep. Okay. Which classical composer shall we pull in next?
Yeah.
Yeah. Asuka going Super Saiyan. That's almost literally what she does.
Yep.
To get through. It is interesting having the juxtaposition of her here with Shinji in 3.0. Her doing exactly the same thing Shinji did. But gotta do the thing. Bad idea, actually, to do the thing. Playing into Gendo's hands, as seems to happen a lot in this series.
Yeah. Gendo is a step ahead of everybody at some point
Sure.
in all of this.
Does.
It's just like, damn it, man.
Absolutely. And then you have this really interesting scene after Rey has gone full beast mode, where she kind of confronts herself. It's weird because obviously it's a call back to when that happens to her in, was it 2.0, where she hears all the pretty little voices when the Eva is going into berserker mode, and you realize she's losing herself, obviously. But it's so interesting to me that they really dive into her head and how screwed up she is. How little she knows herself, I guess, would be more what I'm saying there. And how she's talking to herself and she can't even engage with herself. Interestingly, and then they show her being pulled in, and then the collar exploding.
Yeah.
To show you obviously that she's not dead, but then it was just a very odd scene to me because on the one hand, it did communicate some interesting things to me about Asuka, but in this very tense moment, I don't know. There's something about the scene that just didn't quite work for me for some reason. I don't know why. I like what the scene was trying to do. Maybe it was just the timing of it. I guess that was part of it. So it's like we're half an hour into this action scene, and then we're kind of pulled into Asuka's headspace, and I'm like, I'm ready for the fight scene to be over. I don't know. But yeah, and to Ken Laser's point, full applause to the Evangelion crew, cast, I guess, to have the little thing of her eye patch being hidden this entire time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And not knowing why that's there.
Which was really a lot of squeamishness from me.
Oh, yeah.
The rare bit of when she's pulling it out of her eye, and I'm just like going,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah. Eva likes the body horror.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they don't turn away from that, do they?
No, definitely not.
It's like just on the borderline of Cronenberg.
Yeah.
It's just almost right there.
Just almost there,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah, almost. And then when she does that scene where she realizes that she screwed up, she did the Shinji thing, and she's the angel, the hidden angel.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason why it didn't work is because they only merely hinted at it vaguely throughout the whole series that there is a hidden angel among the pilots,
Yeah.
and you're not supposed to know which one it is, or you're supposed to know.
Yeah.
And then it comes up, and it turns out to be Asuka, and you're just kind of like going, well, you kind of almost don't care.
Yeah.
Because honestly, it could have been any one of them.
Mm-hmm. True.
Especially when what's her name shows up to Obi-Wan, and he calls her by her old name Iskara.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Judas.
okay, so
Oh, that. Yeah.
right, and then you're just like, oh, okay, kill it. It just
Eva's.
can we just come on? Let's just
Yeah.
go back to the fight scene.
Yeah, all of the, let's flip through a biblical dictionary,
Yeah.
and just pull out
Yeah.
something and throw that in there. It's like, come on, like this doesn't add anything to any of this.
Right. Like when they talk about the Book of Nebuchadnezzar, and it's just like, going, but you never really explain the Book of Nebuchadnezzar, so it's lost on everyone. It's just this kind of like going, and it's just like it's almost made to make you feel like, oh, I should know what this is, and this has some deeper meaning, and then you realize, no, actually, it doesn't.
That's the thing. Yeah, if you actually dig into
it means
things,
nothing.
It doesn't really connect at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really great call out. That I think having this revelation doesn't really have a lot of payoff. That she's the hidden angel. It's like, oh, okay, I guess so. Moving on.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to have seen a little bit more development in that, to be like to see the struggle of how she deals with it, how we deal with this revelation. Not like right there.
Yeah.
Right.
How
Because
about
that's
you
the other
cut the
part.
fight down to like 10 minutes, and you have 20 minutes about where we can like figure out why you made her the hidden angel. You know, like,
because honestly, you're right. The scene doesn't work because it lasts only like what, 2 minutes,
If that.
and that's all you get. That's all you get of the other Asuka saying, "Oh no, we're both the same thing, and this is what you are, and you're the, you're the hidden key to make all this happen." And it wasn't Shinji at all, and it wasn't anybody else, and it was you, and it's just like, you just spent 120 seconds doing that. Meanwhile, I just went through 30 minutes of going through this trippy ass scene and just being like watching things explode and dying, horrible, things happening, and angels with skull faces, like trying to nibble on people, and just the body horror. Oh, and this is what I get. Great, and then they melt and disappear. And
I think to Patrick's point in the chat, it's a really good point that in another sense, when they're like, well, here's an angel and it's fusing with Asuka, and so now she's an angel. It's like, yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Sure.
It
could have been any one of them.
Right. It kind of it flows in that sense, but then it doesn't become like a big revelation moment. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then an explosion happens because that's rare in this movie. And we get our odd sort of Star Trek: The Motion Picture V'ger sequence. With Gendo and everyone, and we proceed to have, let's be honest, now we start getting like actual like End of Evangelion scenes. Like this is all stuff like from End of Evangelion, pulling some of these scenes forward. I do love Rizzo just shooting Gendo in the face multiple times.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, right. I'm just like, yes, please, someone's got the right idea. Instead of talking to this guy, that just shoot him. Doesn't do anything, but God, doesn't feel so cathartic, doesn't it?
That's obviously because every place where you have bad guy monologuing, where a good guy just is standing there for 10 minutes, like, hey, are you done yet? Like, no. You have somebody who's doing the real thing, where it's like, oh, blah, blah, bam. Solution. Thank you.
You're decisive. Yes, I am. Blam, 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 blam.
Exactly. I've had enough.
You're a good
The
shot.
world's all come to an end. Let's finish this thing.
Totally. And then, speaking of body horror, scooping up the brains, just splatting it back in there like a planter.
It'll work itself out, I'm sure.
Right, exactly. Again, full props to the cast for just this visual. Just the way they have Gendo with the angel cross glow in his head.
Yeah.
It's a wonderfully creepy, off-putting image that just sticks with you. I will dream about this at some point.
Well, the thing is the first thing that you know that something is so not right is the fact that Gendo actually floats down, and then your mind just goes, well, wait a minute, he's never done that before.
Yeah,
what's going on here?
Is this the altered environment they're in, or what's
going on here?
What got me was when he turned his head to the side. Like, looking straight on, he looks just like it's the thing.
Yeah.
But when he turns the head to the side, you're like,
you can see the
oh, wow. Yeah. There's like a lot of your skull not there. Like, and not just from the bullet either.
Nope.
Like,
Nope.
damn.
Gendo's a little different now.
Yeah.
And then he crawls into the mouth of the Ava.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, dude.
And you know, and we get all the, as you say, you know, the seeds of Nebuchadnezzar or whatever, the backstory of the angels do this thing, which at this point I was like, just more explosions, please. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, this was literally okay because I'm gonna admit it. I started it at midnight.
Oh no!
So
Wow. What a great late night film.
Yeah.
God.
2.5 hours later.
like by that point when he's talking about the Nebuchadnezzar and like you're going, oh, you really did it. You took the seeds of Nebuchadnezzar, and all this thing crawls in the mouth of the Ava, and I'm just sitting there just going,
Yeah.
can we just kill him? I don't care about the exposition. Can we just kill him?
Yeah.
Pocket launcher, something to the head, something, anything.
Something, anything.
Raise
Can
the
we
Indiana
have,
Jones, eat him.
Yeah.
have Ray bite his head off or something? I don't know. Anything.
Yeah. This kind of goes on for a while.
Yes.
Just a little bit.
And we
I
do.
started feeling like in the first movie where it was like,
Yeah.
We do have the scene that is required by law to be in every giant monster movie. We cut back to the normal people who are looking up in terror and clutching each other, and hopefully they'll all be okay. Which is fine scene, but just like okay, yeah, we.
But we know it's Ava, so
Yeah,
we
exactly.
know there's a greater than likely chance it's not going to be all right.
Totally.
you are all going to be Tang in 5 minutes.
Totally.
Especially when you say things like, "Thank goodness for those disruptor things that are protecting us all." Be like, wow, geez, why don't you just throw up a death flag right there?
Exactly,
What would
yeah.
happen if one of them stopped working? Oh, then we all die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what did y'all think of the scene with the kind of the standoff with the other bridge crew wanting to shoot Shinji, and having just kind of that back and forth between all the characters around that? Because it goes on for a little while. Like, I understand why it's there, and like it is appropriately motivated for all the characters, right? Like you understand why they would have that reaction. For me, it went on a little long. And it felt a little melodramatic. Just
Little?
a tad.
Yeah.
A little?
Well, let's envision this. USS Missouri pulls up to Tokyo Bay. They're going to sign the surrender agreement, and like all the crew guys show up and are like, "Damn you! No, we're not going to." And everybody starts yelling at each other. It's like, no, nobody comes off the bridge. Y'all stay back where you are. Let's stop being dramatic. Just leave this up to Misato and Gendo and Rika and let everything happen here. We don't need your assistance in this.
And-
it's like,
Well,
And-
okay, so go ahead.
And I will say I agree, but I will admit that at least like pink-haired girl says, Misato, you told us if Shinji does anything dangerous, we shoot on sight, and he is doing something dangerous, and so I'm going to shoot him on sight. So I'm like. They set it up at least, but
isn't
still.
that what you leave the captain to
right,
do? I mean,
yeah.
Misato stayed right there. It's like she
Right.
could turn around and pimp slap, Shinji right off the edge of the ship into the abyss.
Yeah.
So I hated that scene because it was totally immaterial to me. It did not need to happen. So effing what? And the more annoyance I got with was pink hair girl. Okay, bad enough that we had to go through that with her, right? Okay. Then we have Toji's little sister doing the same exact thing, and they're both talking each other down while they're firing shots. Right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, they're still, and nobody else is moving. Like, there's people behind them that can go, stop it, whatever.
Yeah.
Cold cock 'em, stun gun 'em, something.
Something, right. And we have this overly dramatic scene where you have one character basically doing the same thing as the other character. They're both unhinged at this point, and they're doing all this stuff, and everyone is just effing standing there.
Yeah.
Misato, like in the series or in the earlier movies, probably would have, like John, like what you said, probably just walked over, just went,
Yeah.
stop it.
And Misato is not a passive character.
No.
Nope.
And here she's just kind of standing there, and her, crude, explanations what to do to Shinji aside, she is the freaking captain.
Yep.
And she's not taking authority in this, being like, everybody guns down, back off, I've got it, which is exactly what you would have had Masato in TV series and films up to 3.
Yeah.
I do have to say, I did like the character model of Pink Hair Girl. I don't know who did that, but she looked unlike a lot of other characters in this
She's
film.
a very Trigger style character design.
Yeah.
Very Darling in the Franxx-esque,
Yeah.
And-
So I was
and-
like, this is a very different style for one of these characters. Like,
And the thing that further annoyed me about this scene is that Masato actually gets shot. Because this is a trope. Whenever that happens, then, that person's going to die.
And let's be honest, I believe this scene existed for that moment to happen.
Probably.
And
And
they're
I'm
like,
just
ooh,
like-
this will be dramatic, and so we'll have all this stuff happen,
And then, sorry, as we're getting into the scene where she crashes the ship in to defeat the Ray head, Ray Death's head. As she's doing it, I just had the final scene of the live action Battleship Yamato,
Oh, yeah.
where it went on for 30 minutes, where everyone's waving off to each other. All the dead characters are waving to each other on the bridge and waving him off as he's about to shoot the big gun. And I'm like going,
Well, what is the name of their plan in this movie, right? It's the Yamato plan. Like, it's like, Yep. I will say, again, I appreciate the behavior of Shinji through this scene. The way they present his actions here is, again, very straightforward. Where he's like, I'm still going to do the thing. I don't care what you say. I'm not going to scream at you. I'm not going to do whatever. I'm not going to, go whatever. But like this is the thing. And you definitely feel healing, I think, in this scene.
Yeah.
You see growth, to your last point. He's definitely growing up. But yeah, it just kind of felt like,
Also a tinge of resignation.
yes, it's true. Good point.
That it's not only he's overcome watching, his best buddy's skull pop. He's watched not Ray go goo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's been through a lot of crap.
Yeah.
He's grown as a person, but he's also resigned to the fact that, he's got to do the thing. He's made terrible decisions up till now.
Yeah.
That has resulted in terrible things happen. But he still's got to do the thing. And it's like, wow, okay. You've grown and you're resigned to what you have to do.
And to that point, I think this might be the first Evangelion media I have seen where somebody has explicitly called out, and it happens in the scene actually, where somebody goes, you started Third Impact, and somebody goes, no. He tried to save all of us, and that caused Third Impact.
the impact. Yeah.
Right? Like he did not intend for any of this to happen. Like that's no. Like, thank you. Yes. Somebody actually
Well,
figured
didn't
all
they
this
kept
out.
referring to as the near third?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you caused the near third. No, he stopped the third impact. Like,
Yeah.
okay, yep,
Exactly.
fair enough.
Totally.
Still, tons of people died.
Yeah, but,
fair enough.
Exactly. Yeah, and then we enter. I'm sorry, I don't know if this was Anno's writing or not, because apparently he wasn't like that involved with the movie. Like he had trouble coming up with the movies. He kind of left it to his staff, a lot of these things. But the idea of the anti-universe feels like such a cheesy 70s giant robot final episode thing. Where we're
The
just gonna-
Negaverse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my god. It's like,
Where it was so ridiculous. No, top was like, oh, he's just having fun with cheesy 70 giant robot tropes. I don't know.
Yeah. Did you expect to see another Shinji with a
With the goatee. Yeah, exactly.
oh no, it's evil Shinji of the Negaverse.
I would have loved that. Let's be honest.
Did we get to the part where they went past, what was it, Golgotha object? Was that
we're getting
earlier
there.
in this?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's basically the sequence. Yeah.
That's coming here.
Yeah. Yeah, because Shinji goes in, he sees Rei. Rei gives over the cockpit to him. And we get all of the wonderful absurdities as they start to fight. And Shinji starts to fight his father.
Fine motion capture.
Very much with motion
Love
capture.
it.
Yeah. Really interesting approach here, I think, visually. Because obviously this is essentially entirely CGI. These actual fights, and the fact that it's basically just guys in mocap suits, wrestling with each other, I think works surprisingly well for the EVA units.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, given that we know that they are like biological components underneath armor, that it's like, yes, it actually makes a lot of sense to have like two real people moving like people would move. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the fight, the best of Evangelion fight scenes.
Yeah.
Where you're kind of fighting in all of these different scenarios, and
We're going to not pay attention to scale or scope. We're just going to go boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
Yeah.
exactly.
And the I just love how they just like when they go into Masato's apartment,
Yeah.
like the light just goes on, right? The light goes on, and you're just like, oh my god,
Here we go.
because it's not a clean Masato's apartment.
No,
it's like
no.
it's the empty beer can with cigarette butts in them kind of apartment.
Yeah, that's the moment where I stopped being like, man, this is the really knockdown, drag out. He has the spear of like hope, and this is going to be big. And then they end up in Masato's apartment. I'm like,
Well,
oh, this is just stupid.
well, and just before that, and again, I'll give them full props for this because they're doing this fight in this metropolis, and there's a point like halfway through the fight where Shinji gets hit, and he knocked into some buildings, and they just kind of slide out of the way, and I was like,
Right.
Yeah.
that's cheap. Come on, we know that's not happening. Okay, maybe Anno's making a point that this is all very artificial.
Yeah.
And then Shinji literally knocks into the backdrop.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they say at the beginning of the
Yeah.
fight that it's all a matter of perception
Yeah.
and reality. So they're just going
Yeah.
through this whole, and I was just like, okay, here we go, Truman Show. What
Yeah.
what other movies can we just pull in here? and
It's a
just
Godzilla
run?
film.
Yeah,
It's like,
it is.
it's all
It's
on
exactly
a
what it is.
stage,
Yes, it's-
and it's a Godzilla film.
Yeah. And so again, as kind of cheesy and somewhat overplayed that metaphor has been, I appreciate that they kind of went all in on it.
Yeah. Well, and that was the end of when they got to Masato's apartment.
Yeah.
I started to enjoy it more.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm like,
Uh-huh.
what's okay? I'm just gonna laugh. I'm just gonna go
Yeah,
with this.
exactly.
What
Yeah,
happened?
this is clearly
Wash over me, craziness.
theater of the
Can,
absurd.
can you imagine watching this in the movie theater and they're going through this entire fight scene, and then it just goes quiet just for that 1 second, and you see the light on him. And wait a minute, that's Masato's apartment building. The light just went out. And you're just like, well, you have no choice but to laugh,
Yeah.
because there's no other way to deal with that absurdity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and when he literally burst through the wall into the storage space next to it.
Into the sound stage, like back area.
Yeah.
Like, oh, geez.
I particularly like when they're fighting in the classroom and like
Yeah.
they meet and then of all of it was like, okay, yeah. Speaking of which, slightly Haruhi Suzumiya. Like Haruhi Suzumiya fighting Ryoko in the like Negaverse classroom
yeah.
thing.
Oh, blows
Yeah,
that.
yeah, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, then all the various fights with them, and gotta say again, this is where I think the movie started elevating for me. Further, was when Shinji realizes, oh right, I shouldn't fight. The point of this was never to fight my father. But the point was to stop my father. But the point is not just butting heads with him. It's not effective, so let's talk. Which is the only thing I ever really wanted from him. And so they talk. Boy, do they talk!
And that's where Gendo puts the spear of destiny through shit. No.
Yeah, so you know how they tell you in writing classes and screenwriting classes, show don't tell.
Yeah.
This is really tell don't show for a while here.
So, okay. So, the ending of this was far superior in so many ways to the television series.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There was no, on my part, no feeling of rage of wanting to throw things,
Right.
and
Good.
getting drunk off of malt liquor, because that just would involve fire. So we didn't get there,
Yeah.
but when I watched this long segment, way too long segment, and they animated it the way that they animated it, and the way that he's talking, and you're just like, oh God, you're both alike. All right. Okay.
We're not so
Okay.
different, you and I.
Yeah.
And do you know how much? And okay, so this is the whole point. We watch his things, and these are the whole point of the thing, is to watch the thing, to enjoy the thing,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. But then you have this conversation that makes you say, if you had just said this to him, none of this
Yeah.
would happen. None of this is a thing.
Yeah.
And then you cheapen the whole gravitas of the whole series by saying, I got lonely, so I wanted to kill the world. Whereas your son just goes, I'm so lonely, leave me alone. And you're both just hateful. I just, as Gendo's going through his thing, through his whiny little monologue, not little monologue, but long monologue.
Long monologue.
Monologue, and he's just going through it, and they're going from the train, the tropes, the Ava tropes, they're going through the train stuff, and he's going through all this, and he's explaining it, and it is a sad story, it is a meaningful story, it is, there's a point behind it, but it's just told, like you say, it's not shown, it's told to you, and you just don't care. You just don't care. You just sit there and just go, okay, your wife died and you were alone.
Yeah.
And that is effing sad. And that is so horrible. Yes, it all is. Did you have to kill the world? Was this
Well, I think the
really
obvious
what you
answer
wanted
is
to
yes.
do?
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
And then you come to realize that the whole point of it was him just to not even really enjoy a life with anybody. It was just he was. This is like the Nine Rings of. What was the opera? The Nine Rings.
Wagner,
Yes.
the Nibelungen,
Yeah.
Yes. And
the Ring. Yeah.
the ring,
Exactly.
and it's just like, so we went through all of this, simply because you're an introvert.
Yeah. I remember watching a video essay about the movie Aragon, the fantasy movie Aragon, which has many flaws. Among them, that the reviewer pointed out is that in the original book, the main character can hear the dragon only to him in his thoughts. And in the movie, you hear those all the conversation between him and his dragon, which is kind of fair enough. And the guy said, and the reviewer said, "Watch what happens if I mute all of the dragon's dialogue." And the guy says something, and the dragon turns to him and looks, and nods, and flies off. Instead of turning to him and going, "Young master, that is a very wise thing. I will do as you say." And he says, just by turning off the dialogue and watching what the dragon does makes it far more interesting and pulls you in. I didn't need to hear a single word Gendo said in this entire sequence. If it had just been imagery of Yui and the pregnancy and Shinji as a young boy and all of these things, I would have gotten it just as well, and I would have been far more invested in Gendo as a character because I realized, oh, I see the pain. I see where he's coming from, and I can now intuit where all of his mind is going, and it doesn't turn into him literally telling me I was alone and so I wanted to destroy the world, which, to your point, Steve, just really cheapens it. And shorten the scene by about half.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I want to know is that when he gets off the metaphysical train,
Yeah.
where the hell did he go?
Yeah.
I'm hoping straight to hell.
Oh yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, Goltha's
Yeah.
got a word with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like I don't know. We've ridden literally we've ridden this train all the way to this point,
Yeah.
and it's like, why did you need to talk us through the
Yeah.
remainder of this?
Yeah. And I do
You
wonder
know?
if it's like what we talked about in Harry Potter, where it's like, if I don't explain all of this to the audience, they will riot. You know, that feeling that need to tie up all the loose ends so everybody knows all the things, which I think is, problematic.
But I think you're totally right. It's just looking at the way they've, sketched it out, the way that,
Yeah.
it kind of moves forward. You can follow it entirely just by the pictures.
Yeah.
You don't need him to talk you through it. And it's like, so I think, and to the degree that, if you want to say, the casual viewer, they won't get as much of it. It's like, well, then that casual viewer is going to go back and like try and watch more of it, aren't they?
Also,
Versus like,
it's Eva.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, it is.
What did you expect? Yeah, but
Yeah, this just went on and on and on and on.
It's weird. And to your point, Steve, I completely agree. Like there's stuff here. Like there's emotional weight. There's all sorts of interesting stuff happening here, but it feels like they just again take the 2x4 and just whack you over the head with it.
Yeah. I would have appreciated more of like, how did sad, lonely little Gendo end up with Yui?
Yeah.
And then the science behind how did he get where he was? How did he hook up
Right.
his skill?
Yeah.
How did anybody kind of like put the 2 and 2 together to get all this catastrophe that's happening right now?
Right.
It's like, did he have like a super part when somebody said, we could call down an angel, and he said, yes, let me do the math. It's like, where does he fall in this?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
And I have some interesting ideas about the sketches in this.
Oh yeah. What do you think?
There's a sketch that you flash by for a second where there's a girl with glasses on.
Oh yeah.
And what would happen, since Shinji and Gendo are so similar, if this is a result, if Shinji / Gendo ends up with Yui, and the world comes to an end,
Yeah.
and that's Mari.
Right. Oh yeah.
Well,
So
I thought that was supposed to be Mari.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Introducing
but
it to him.
But it's the end of the movie is Shinji with Mari
Yep.
makes happy.
I mean,
Gendo with Yui
Yui
makes negative.
Yeah.
And that you just overlap Gendo and Shinji, and it's like it's the choice of what they've done that separates Gendo from Shinji.
Well, and
I'm like, oh.
it's so interesting because you wonder kind of what exactly that connection was between the two of them, because you get the feeling that Gendo saw Yui and was just smitten and was
Yes.
just love at first sight, but he has this apparently very friendly relationship with Mari, whatever her
Yeah.
name was, and so. But like, there's nothing negative portrayed about his relationship with Yui.
Right.
So like, there's nothing obsessive about it. There's nothing creepy about it. There's not like, oh, I had to have her, whatever. And like he says, she completed me, and I love spending time with her and so forth. So it is interesting. I completely agree that they're basically making this point that like the adult versions of all the people we have now made these choices, but these characters are making these different choices.
Yes. And that
Yeah.
if the way that Mari is so friendly with Gendo
Yeah.
and is more touchy than ever you
Oh,
see
yeah.
Yui with Gendo, that if Gendo had been in the gravitational pull of Mari, that you would have the end of this film where everybody's at the train station.
Right.
That would have been his life.
Yep.
But because he made the choice of Yui, that was the diversion
Yeah.
that ended up in Cataclysm. And it's like, so I got to looking at that, I'm
Right.
like, why is Mario Illustrious there?
right.
Is this actually her? I don't, I'm like, no.
Well, it's her mother.
Brain's hurting.
Right. Right. It was got
So-
your mother.
So two things. I thought that was Murray in that, but Brent, when he goes, "Where's Yui? Where's Yui?" he was doing that refrain. You,
Yeah.
you know where I'm gonna
Oh
go.
yeah,
Right?
a million deaths.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
enough for you.
Yeah. Billions of deaths and not enough for Yui.
Yeah.
No, I was totally there. I just went out for those curious. When Studio Gainax did Gunbuster, famously, the final episodes includes a lot of pencil sketches just like this, and it totally was not because they ran out of time. They insist.
It was an artistic choice.
Choice. I think this is partly a reference back to that, but I think it also kind of works in the sense of it being this very prototypical visual. And
Well,
not
it's
allowed
also
to do
the starkness of it.
Yeah.
I think, again, without the blah, 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 the starkness of the
Yeah.
black and white really conveys
Yeah.
the emotional weight of what they're showing.
Yeah.
So,
And you have a man thinking back on 20 years ago, and how
Yeah.
fragmentary those memories can be.
all the things he's done.
Yeah.
He's got a lot to
Yeah.
consider.
Actually, 30 years. Now that I think about it, because it's been 14 times. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
I was just kind of half expecting him to be on the train going, so this is why I did. Wait a minute, let me do the math real quick. Oh, I inverted a negative.
Dang it. But yeah, and I completely agree, Patrick. I did appreciate the fact that this is all about just a father talking to his son, just having the conversation, getting it out, and realizing, oh crap, I made some really bad choices here. In fact, where do we get? Is it later on here? I'm trying to see if we skip it. Oh yeah, it does happen later. As they're trying to deal with the creepy CGI Ray. So let's talk about the creepy CGI Ray for a second.
Yes.
So I do think this is intentional. I think that we've all seen, again, the memes of End of Evangelion and giant naked white Ray and all that kind of stuff happening there. And I think this is meant to destabilize the audience, to provide an even further creepy visual of Ray.
Yeah.
By making it this kind of weird, almost photorealistic CGI. And it worked.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was like a photorealistic style. I'm like looking at it, I'm like, oh, why did you spend so much money on this? Oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable watching it.
Yeah, exactly. But creepy mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah, and then Masato sacrificing herself at the end, which I don't know. I gotta say, this is one of those things that felt to me like, again, kind of Hollywood movie writing, where it's like, I guess that has to happen. Sure. It is reasonably established by all the different kind of things happening in the movie, but it didn't really have a lot of emotional impact for me. I'm obviously sad Masato dies,
Yeah.
but also kind of like, the Hollywood Writer Handbook says this has to happen at this point, and so it happens at this point. I don't know.
So yeah, this is the moment where you're supposed to be sad and cheer at the same time.
Yeah.
With Masato's death, and again, my refrain for this movie, I got annoyed. I got annoyed at this because I was just like, there are characters you can see die. There are characters that have to die when you go through the plot of a movie.
Yeah.
When you write the plot of a movie. Masato never struck me as a character that has to die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or if she does die, it's a consequence of something big outside that cannot be avoided.
Right.
Right? And you don't see it. It's just inferred.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Kaiju.
And
It's like,
right.
he was, I'm not speaking ill of the character, but he's not real. So anyway,
Yeah.
his death is like, it plays a good part to how Misato is moving
Yeah.
things around in her
Right,
life.
Right.
And it's like, this entire
Yeah,
film,
this doesn't accomplish anything. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's like, Masato has stepped so far back, and they've used her so far back in the plot of this film
Yeah.
that I felt like they just we're cutting her off.
Yeah.
It's like, I understand her, she's now gone to Villa, and she's taken on a different stance, but there's never any moments where I really got a feeling it's like, okay, the Masato we know has lost somebody dear to her, and Shinji is still dear to her somewhere in there. But it's like I don't feel like they came back to her. They just now she's got this great big dramatic death, and it's like, okay, the only time we see the Masato we know is when she got shot.
Yeah.
And it's like there's that little touch, and then this is the great heroic death, and it's like I just
where she lets her hair down, and this is the Masato that we
Yeah,
recognize.
exactly.
And then we're supposed to care at that point, and it's just but it doesn't need to happen.
Yeah.
No.
Exactly.
It doesn't need to happen, and so it's just kind of like, and then again at the end of the movie when you realize what Shinji does is he's just basically pressing a reset without Ava's.
Yeah.
So she's going to be alive.
Yeah.
At that point, she's alive somewhere in the world.
Yeah.
So it's just like going.
You also have the problem, like I literally when she's on the bridge and she says somebody has to guide it in, I thought to myself, do they though?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Why?
How about you tie a rope around the yoke and just let the thing go?
It's like you have all this technology. Surely you have like a button that says go in this direction. I don't know.
Well, when they were getting their hat handed to them, I swear somebody in the background was like, "Primary navigation's down."
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, wasn't that a telling
Yeah,
thing to say?
Yeah.
The autopilot's offline. What do we do? I'll have to guide it in manually. Use a stick and a rope around the yoke and point it in the direction you want to go. Then hit the eject pods.
Yeah.
What?
No, can't have that.
You don't want the ship to accidentally hit giant spooky Ray in the nose. No, you want it to
Right.
go into the eye.
Totally.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
That said, I did legitimately get weepy when Gendo confronts little boy Shinji, and I'll probably get him, do it again here, and then he gets down on his knees and just gives him a hug.
Yeah.
It is just such, and I'm getting weepy just looking at it. It is just such an earned moment of where, everything Shinji's been through. Also, let's just be honest, that the iconography of that shot, Shinji crying, and then Gendo coming to the point of realizing this is what I should have done. From the get-go.
This was the piece of Yui that was left behind.
Yeah.
That you could have cherished, that you could have nurtured. Instead, you killed billions of people in your insane plan to bring about the end of the world. Should have just bought a Union Carbide plant and released pesticide. You would have killed people. Fine.
The guy who anyway, then Kaoru comes back.
Yeah.
As we start working through all the various stuff going on, and then we get a whole Asuka thing. A whole thing about Asuka and kind of her backstory, which again kind of felt like, oh yeah, Asuka. Like we've gotten all this psychological stuff. We forgot about Asuka. Let's throw in Asuka's backstory here.
She took a little break for a little while.
Yeah,
And we'll just go back to her later.
And again, it's a very effective sequence in the sense of understanding her pain, understanding where she's coming from. Love the images of her as a little girl, and everyone's kind of orbiting around her and kind of paying attention to her. Wonderfully done, but also just again kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, you see, this was the scene and the parts about Asuka that we could have gotten in the second movie that would have prepared you for her becoming an angel.
Yeah.
In this one,
Exactly.
This would have helped you set that up, and instead, it's just like, as you're saying, it's just like we're wrapping up all the loose threads. So we're going to take Asuka and we're going to give her this thing. By the way, we're going to have her in a ripped up plug suit on the beach, and no, there's nothing creepy or sexual about that.
No.
And the thing about Shinji didn't react like a normal 14-year-old boy, but
He's an adult now.
Shinji not normal? No.
Stop it. No. But and having her go through that, and then have what's his name show up as the puppet, that was just I just went no, that just destroyed all preconceptions I had, just like John. I was thinking, no, there's something going on there. All right, cool. I'm with that. I'm actually good with that.
Yeah.
And then he comes out of the puppet. I'm just like, I just wanted to pat on the head, and you see him coming out, taking the puppet's head. I'm like, that is like the worst Disney attraction ever. Okay? That's just like, seeing Mickey at the Rose Garden and just going like, hi kids. It's like, no, how you doing?
Oh. Well, I would like to have known that there was like 40 different Oscars that were like all in the running to doing things that we had. We saw the clone farm of Rey's.
Yeah.
Could we have not have seen how this thing developed a little earlier in this so that we could get some, that this would make sense? Not in the last 15 minutes of the entire franchise, like maybe earlier, that we could digest it a little bit. You could work with some of the stuff here.
By the way, this was the only point in the movie that I actually felt the need to stop and actually read the thing.
Oh, interesting.
Where it said "nerve keep out."
Oh. No, where it just said
"nerve keep out." Okay, cool.
No, just saying that she's the only. These were she was the only one to survive whatever not survive, but go through the program and everything. And at the end of it, that's just like the damning piece of 3 sentences of saying, "Here's the encapsulation of your life, you failure."
Yeah.
And if we had gotten that in the last movie, so much,
Yeah.
you would have been so much more invested in Oscar.
Yeah, totally.
Then we get the Big O soundstage.
Yeah, exactly. And so we get our Kaoru moments because we gotta have that. Find out more about Kaoru because again it's like okay, time. Gotta figure out Kaoru now.
Yeah.
Got all that Kaoru stuff in.
Tick it off. It's another one. Tick off the list.
Yep. And we find out more about kind of Kaoru and the backstory and all that kind of stuff. And then to your point, then we get our soundstage. Literally as Shinji is wrapping production on the movie. Yeah. Is there a metaphor here? I'm not sure. Not clear.
That we're getting done, putting it all away, sweeping up the floors. Yeah, gotcha.
Exactly. And so, what do you think about the final imagery of Yui and Gendo kind of taking on the spear at the end? Because I was conflicted. Like I liked some elements of it. I wasn't sure about other elements of it.
I like to see Gendo happy with the woman that he destroyed the world for. I like Gendo dead. You know what I mean? It's like
Tell us how you really feel, John.
Yeah, well, it's just I got where it was in the film. And I understood where they were going with it. I don't. At this point in time, I'm like, it's 2 hours.
That's kind of how I felt.
How
are we doing? End this damn parade.
So we're at this point where the Seven-Coup, and I'm watching it, and I'm like going, great, okay. So now she's released herself from death, okay, or not released herself from death, but releasing herself to death, whatever.
Well, if they're in the Negaverse, isn't her dying being coming back to? Never mind.
Shut up! Shut up!
Okay. Sorry.
So when they do the thing, I was just like, I didn't, just like the rest of you, I just did not care. Except I did have a very brief moment of wondering if they were going to do the black hole ending and you'll see Gendo's actual eyes behind his glasses.
There we go. Yeah.
Trapped inside the Evangelion, just like looking around, like in the hell scene.
Maximilian.
Maximilian.
I do.
But it was.
Oh.
No, I was just going to say, I tell you what I did like, and I think is what you're leading up to, is the final scene between. As Shinji as they go from animation to storyboarding, and then he's saved at the end because that's just like the dissolution. But anyway, it's that was one of my. I was happy for that to be at the end of the movie, not because it was the end of the movie, but because it was it was an important way to end the movie. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I did like the symbolism of parents sacrificing for their child. This idea that. That's what Yui did, quite obviously, and that now Gendo was kind of finally doing that himself as well, and that he was doing this in a way that would help everything to kind of be over, but also this idea that Yui was sacrificing, Gendo really wasn't, and now he's taking that on in a way that kind of makes all this happen. So again, like that kind of made sense, that kind of worked, but
Yeah.
I agree with both of you guys. It's kind of just at this point in the film, all the other things going on. I'm like, okay, I guess this is where you're going.
Well, as you pointed out, this is just they're taken care of. This other stuff's taken care of. Everything's taken care of. We're getting to the final run.
Yep. And all of the Kodama come down. Sorry, all of the souls come down.
Yeah.
Bit of a reference there. And then Shinji is left.
I like the fact that there were animals in there.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Which I was like, wow. So everybody got cored.
Yeah.
So they became, angel, Eva angels and all that, including like sheep and pig and like other animals. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, so do you have like Evas out there like Nuku Nuku? That's just like totally wild. Like, oh, that's because that Eva unit was a pig. Like, oh, cool, neat.
Yeah. Again, Buddhism. Everything reincarnates.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
That would make sense. And then Shinji, and again, I'll give them credit. Shinji is left on the beach. Everything is fine. And it took me a moment, and then it gets all sketchy, and I realized, Anno's making his point here, but also, Shinji's still inside. This has been him pushing everyone else out, getting everyone else kind of resolved, but he's still in here. And some of the stuff that, what happened to Pen Pen? Yeah, good question. There's this kind of recurrent motif. This is actually kind of a very Lane ending, right? Where Shinji is saying, it's okay, I will stay in here to kind of resolve all these plot threads. And if I have to stay here for a while, I'm fine with that. I do appreciate that that he wasn't like, I'm going to stay here forever, because he knows Mari's coming for him. But this idea that he's like, I do the thing, I stay here, whatever needs to happen, is fine. And then we get all of the, the very, very just, okay, you want to know how anime is made?
Right.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Down to the, jitteriness.
Where can I buy those?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, they actually add jitteriness to his head. When he's sitting there and, the wind is blowing in his hair and, everything. They clearly not only distinguish those two, they move them around a little bit so they are different elements on the page, which I thought was really interesting.
Right.
So my read on that was that just basically that was his soul dissolving.
Mm-hmm.
He was becoming one with whatever.
Yeah.
Waiting for Maria Illustrious to come in, and boy did she come in.
Yeah, she sure did.
Yes, sir.
Ooh. So this was the unknown Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition.
Oh yeah.
The Eva Girls swimsuit plug suit edition.
Exactly. Which Eva's kind of known for that, right? In fairness. And then we get our final scene, which warmed my heart. And there's a sentence I did not think I would say about the final Evangelion film's final scene. Where we get this wonderful... And it's also kind of weird because Sadamoto obviously does the character designs for Mamoru Hosoda's films. And this is such a Mamoru Hosoda scene. It feels like it's right out of Boy and the Beast or Girl Who Looked Through Time or whatever.
Yeah.
Where you have Shinji interacting with Mari, playing around. Obviously, they're both a little more grown up, but they're now hanging around. I really like how Shinji is playful in a way that is still in character.
Yeah.
Where he's not, jumping around like Mari is, which would be like, no, not Shinji. But it does feel like he's kind of interacting, he's engaged, right? We also see, and I don't know if I'll be able to see get a shot of it. We see across the way, Kaoru and Rei.
Yeah.
A
cast of familiar characters, if you will.
Exactly. Which again, sort of Gendo and Yui together again, so to speak.
Yeah.
Why don't we see Asuka?
We did.
Where?
She's on the opposite platform to the far left.
I didn't see her.
I thought I did.
Is she?
Yes.
Here's Karen Ray. See here.
I swear I saw her like to the far left as the train started to go by.
Huh. I'm gonna try to.
Because there's other people on that platform,
Mm-hmm.
like standing around, and I couldn't identify who the other people were.
Yeah. You are totally right. She is there on the very far end.
Yep.
Cool. I thought they were deliberately leaving Asuka out of the ending. They were not.
I would have been salty if that had been the case, because it's like, no, this is the happy ending. Damn it, everybody's fine. They're just waiting for trains. They're going to go off to their offices, and then they're going to talk about having a Christmas party at some point. Something. Then they'll go to the beach when there's like whatever. I don't know. Again.
Yeah, and so basically, they get very much the happy ending. As they're literally
As happy as Eva gets.
Well, I mean, not as happy as Eva gets. I mean, happier than Eva ever got.
Everybody's
Yeah, well,
alive.
I mean,
There's not a destroyed world. Like,
And Shinji, for once, takes charge and takes Mary's hand and Mari's hand, and they go smiling and laughing.
Yeah.
And we're
Charge
all
of
as
the
good as we're rolling. Gendo's freaking dead.
God is in heaven, and all is right with the world.
Exactly.
That's right.
So to speak. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we end with a live action drone shot
Yep.
of that exact train station, which blew my mind. I literally cursed at the screen. I was like, wait, that's the actual train at that actual station. Dang. And this is why I think any Eva fans who look at that and think, oh boy, Anno has lots of more ideas for Evangelion, and he clearly wants us to analyze this more and go deeper. Do not watch the same movie I did, because this to me is very much clearly Anno saying, and now stop watching the animation and go out into the real world and live your lives. Yeah, exactly, Patrick. Our world is what Shinji wanted the whole time. Basically, he just wanted normal reality.
No Evas, no death, just a life.
This is heaven, so to speak. This is what he's looking for. Or what he gave us, which I like that interpretation. Yeah, then if he did indeed recreate everything. But yeah, I just love, and boy, is this what Anno of today would give us as the ending, as opposed to the Anno of 30 years ago. As the ultimate message of it. But yeah, it is such a which, and again, should be pointed out, the end of the TV series is a happy ending. Shinji does get through everything, and he resolves his psychological problems at the end of the TV series. It's just the way we get there. And the fact that we're still technically sort of stuck in this world. But yeah, the fact that it's like, this is it. Everything is awesome. One of my personal litmus tests for film is, after that film, if I walk outside and I'm still half kind of in the world of the movie, but also half like happy to be walking around and enjoying life.
Yeah.
That's kind of my litmus test for a really good film, and that's how I felt after this ending. I was like, I'm glad I watched that film. I'm glad I enjoyed that, but also I don't feel like I got sucked into a completely different world that doesn't like impact the real world. I feel energized by this film. I felt edified, I guess, by the end of the film, which I did not expect.
So might I suggest never watching it at midnight and ending
No.
at 2:30 a.m. So might I make that suggestion? Because again, world's different, world's better than the series ending.
Yeah.
No argument whatsoever. I will take this ending. I will take it. At the end of it, I just thank God it was over. I just, it was. when I started the movie and I said, okay, I wonder what the runtime is.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I got
that's
halfway
a
through
hard
and I was
one.
like, well, they must be finishing it up now by then. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and it was just like it's bad when you just like, okay, I'm gonna pause it here, go to take a bio break. Oh, and
Another
just
2
being-
hours to go.
right. Yeah, it's just like, oh my god. But anyway, so the I'm glad that I watched it. I'm glad that I got the ending that I got out of it. I was very much pleased with the I was pleased with the ending from when Mari comes to save Shinji onto the end. I was very happy with that. Very happy with it actually, because I think that is the ending that should have happened.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form in a television series, other than the freaking slow clap, which made me scream. And it's God, years ago, you guys would have been like, okay, Steve, we'll see you later. But it was a really good ending. But the trip getting there was so freaking hard. But I will be honest, in my father thoughts in my world of worlds, I would love a movie on the Ghibli part of the movie.
Yeah.
I would love that movie. I
Yeah.
would love to have that movie.
I agree. By the way, I ran the numbers. I think I mentioned this last time. The total runtime of all 4 Evangelion Rebuild movies is equivalent to 20 episodes of the TV series. So we almost got all the way through Evangelion again. Just
That's
in the
a bit
runtime of
much.
these. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I,
Done?
as I had said before,
Yeah.
I enjoyed the film.
Yeah.
I like the choices that they made, the directions they went. I wasn't super happy with some of the way that was executed, but I like, you know what I mean? I enjoyed the fact that we got to some kind of resolution of this.
Yeah.
That we've seen some of Gendo, like what was driving Gendo in there, not just the, sort of unknown amorphous, I miss your mom. You know what I mean? We see some of that. We see how things kind of coalesced in this. We see how the average people survived this Holocaust that has happened to Earth, nearly a third time, but certainly by Gendo's efforts is going to happen. I like the way they went with it. I felt like I've been through something, certainly to get to the end of it. And oddly enough, I would love to see them now. The No More Eva world. Now what? You know what I mean? I'd love to see, what does Ray go on to do? What did Tower do? What does everybody do with their lives now that we're done this? And it's like, that would be the only part where somebody said, oh, there's another Eva film. I'd be like, oh, good. Shinji works in an office, and what's Mari do? It's like, this would be neat to see their romance
Let's
bloom.
be honest. If they did a next movie, it would be Perfect Blue. Right?
Oh,
Like that-
No, I want a nice happy film.
Come on.
It's like we've been through so much to get to this point. It's like this, that
Well,
was just-
Perfect Blue. Now, you know what it would be? It'd be Shinji's in complete debt, has to sell Mari to the Yakuza, which is Karu, and Ray is. Well, we're not even going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, just to see how we see this little snippet of Shinji, and obviously Mari is just pretty much the same way she is, and we only see the other characters across the way.
Sure.
It's like, wouldn't it be interesting to see Ray as a fully functioning person?
Yeah.
So that the Ray that we got to know, the not Ray that we got to know in that little pocket of civilization,
Right.
that we get to see her be the human being that the not Ray was going to strive to be. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm perfectly pleased with how this ended. I'm perfectly pleased with how the film developed. Perfectly pleased with how they did the fight scenes. I think there was some amazing work on the fighting robots and angels and all that stuff. Tweaks could be made, but you know what? It's not my baby.
Yeah.
You know.
So I want to finish with one last question. No right or wrong answer. If someone came to you and said, I've heard about this Evangelion thing, what should I watch? Would you recommend they go back and watch the original TV series for the historical context? For
I'd say
as a
Eurocamp.
Yeah. Or the rebuild.
Jeez.
Well,
Wow.
I would I would tell people in either instance, I would say you're going to be frustrated. And what level of frustration and payoff do you want? If you want payoff, watch the rebuild movies. If you want to watch something really amazing into the last 3 episodes, watch the TV series. Because the TV series is amazing, in my estimation, except for the last 3 episodes. The rebuild movies for me is like an apology for those 3 episodes, to be honest. And
Sure.
like I said, the rebuild movies overall are better than the television series insofar that you get a payoff, a good payoff at the very end. So I would tell people, if you're a newbie to this is what I did for dinner for a friend. I said, watch the rebuild, and then actually go ahead and watch the series.
Wow. Okay.
And you will appreciate what the rebuild does for you.
Interesting. Okay.
I got to agree with that, because I even though we're getting, by your calculation, we're getting 20 episodes worth of information. I would have the sense that somebody coming in cold on this, the first film gives them enough of where this is going, enough of like where the series is coming from, and it might diverge going forward from that. But you've got some of the core concepts going that you get an end by this final film. You get an end to that, and if that has really piqued your interest, if you're not like insanely angry at how this thing developed, then go back for context and look at what the original TV series did. And you already have the basics under your feet, so now you can sort of plug in some other stuff to see how the TV series works for you. But I think it would be very hard to sell somebody on the TV series first with its ending, to then be like, oh well, now you're done that, watch the film. Like,
Because they'll probably be like looking at you going, I hate you already, why would I take it?
yeah, why would I listen to you twice? Like, sorry.
Yeah, that's a slightly strong statement, I would say, given the popularity of that TV series. But I'm basically in agreement. I would actually tell folks, watch the first rebuild movie. Period. What do you think of that? Do you want 3 more movies of that, basically, or does that make you curious about the original TV series? Because you're getting basically that plot line. Do you now want to go back, and do you have like the historical interest to go back and watch the TV series? Or do you kind of want to move forward with the thing? So yeah, that's. But yeah, I agree. I would say start with the rebuild movies, and the TV series is almost just a historical curiosity. But I don't know. Okay.
If you want your otaku badge, you will watch.
That's the thing. Right, yeah.
I think I'd also throw in a little caveat, be like, yes, there are giant robots, but it's not a whole giant robot thing. It's not, it's not Big O, it's not Gundam, it's a lot of stuff going on. So if you're expecting like just robot fights all the time, no.
Yeah. See, one of my favorite anime series is a slice of life high school anime with mecha. So what can I say? But that'll do it for us for EVA 3.33. And great discussion as always. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Take a quick break, and we'll talk about the latest news and other anime things. Exactly. See you in a moment.
See ya.
And welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. Let's take a moment, a little breather, talk about the anime we've been watching and sort of anime-related media. Folks in the chat, please let us know what you've been watching lately and any questions you have for the three of us. And meanwhile, John, how about you?
Watching more of Mirko-chan, the girl who sees the horrible evil monster things. Banished from the Heroes Party. Oh, jeez. Lots.
Okay.
Cool. Been watching lots, and then 2.5 hours of playing Life for Eva.
Yes.
It's been a fairly slow week.
Okay.
I've been finding, like, oddly enough, I'm only getting like a half an hour that I get anime done at lunchtime now.
Okay.
It's like I don't know what happened to the time that I think it's Genshin. But
I have
it's
no
like
idea
now
what you're talking about.
I have no idea. Yeah, so like out of a 23-minute episode, I'm finding like by the time I finish lunch, I've got like 15 minutes of it done, and I have to stop, go to work, come back, and I'm like, what is going on? I used to be able to watch a full episode and like all this stuff and have like 2 episodes a day. Now I'm getting like 1.5. Like, so I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's changed. It's fall, but
It's fair enough.
It's the darkness coming in at 4:45.
It doesn't help.
it's good sleeping weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, how about you?
Well, it's been an interesting week for me. So I yesterday walked out to my car to go to work at 6:45, and noticed the car door was ajar, and looked inside, and all the contents of my glove box were all over the inside of the car. So a bum had slipped inside my car last night. It somehow got into the car and slipped in there. And I was just like, nothing was stolen. So my car truly is my car truly is a POS. So it's out.
Gotcha.
I'm like,
Okay.
like it's
Wow.
not a big deal, but it's just like going, okay, all right, that's interesting.
Not how I thought the day would start. Yeah.
Right, it's just like going, well, but when something like that happens, though, the percentage of your day improving
It's true.
is substantially, exponentially larger.
Good point.
So, so the rest of the day was fine and actually got better because other things didn't happen. So, there is that. There is that. Let's see here. I actually did watch a little bit of anime this week. I was able to have some time. I pulled out an old favorite and watched a couple episodes of Baccano.
Ooh,
okay.
Nice.
And which I thought which I still love. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I love it.
I love
So I watched a couple of those.
Miria.
Sat down.
Sorry.
So I sat down and really needed to watch something nice. So I watched episode third or fourth episode of Eurocamp. And it was the episode where Nadeshiko goes to the little storage thing. She's looking through the whole thing, and she's looking for stuff to try and tent. She brings out the big tent that's really just like a sun cover. And she sits there and just wind blows. And she's like, I'm cold. I'm like, yeah. And she gets the text that tells her where Rin is, and so she gets the hot pot and all that stuff together, and then it goes back to where the previous episode ended, and they had this wonderful little day together, and it's just one of those things where it's just like the watching it, and she sleeps in the car, which I've done before, and gets up and sees Mount Fuji, and the wonderful music is playing. I love the soundtrack for this show.
Yep.
It's just so nice. It's so lovely. I mean, it's just, I don't use that word often with music, but it really is lovely music. And there's Mount Fuji, and the sunrise is coming up, and it's peeking around, and they just illustrate this so well. It just looks so beautiful. And she goes, and I know exactly where she's coming from. The Dutchko goes, it's too bright, and walks into the tent. I'm like, oh, yes, I know that. I know that feeling. It's too bright. It's beautiful, but it's too bright. and goes through the whole thing and the whole hot pot sequence where honestly I know it's just animation, but it looked pretty damn good.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm just kind of watching it, and just at the end of it, I'm like,
Yep.
okay, all's right with the world.
Yeah.
That is
Warm
what Eurocamp
fuzzies.
does.
Warm fuzzy.
Well, I just realized we should be getting an announcement of season 3 soon.
Yeah.
Because so for those not familiar, Eurocamp season 1 was in the fall. It came out in the fall and it's set in the fall, and then out season 2 and it came out in winter and set in the winter. So season 3 should be set in spring, and so we're about 6 months out. So it should be about time if they're going to do season 3 for them to drop that. So fingers crossed.
I'm trying to remember if I saw something about a Eurocamp movie, OAD.
Yes, I believe I recall reading about that.
Which I don't know whether that is going to be a recap, an arc, or what that would be. I mean, an arc.
Actually,
They went camping someplace different. Oh,
great
that's an
call.
arc.
Laid Back Camp movie, an upcoming Japanese animated film, set to come out in 2022. That is a great call. So that might actually be it instead of season 3. And they have announced. Time skip.
Oh, how
Nadeshiko
far?
and Rin are adults in this.
What?
Yeah.
I wanted to watch them grow up.
You will.
Camp every year and
You will.
keep going.
You'll get there. But yeah, there's a teaser visual, and the two of them look a few years older. So interesting.
Wow.
Curious.
I can't wait. It'll
Yeah,
be so fun.
Exactly.
Be nice if it was in a theater during the weekend. Opposed to Wednesdays or Thursdays.
Gotcha. Cool.
And Brent, you?
Let's see here. So in anime related, keeping up with Yomi Can't Communicate. Netflix
yeah.
release it at least. That's continues to be wonderful. As we slowly grow the group, I will point out episode 3 things get a little creepy.
Yes.
As we get the next friend, who is shall we say submissive.
Yes. If you say wow, wow, like a dog.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes, and I will say they push that so wonderfully over the top that it's laughable. So
Yes.
it's creepy, but in a very much anime over the top comedy way.
It's not off-putting.
Exactly. Yes. In anime related news, I finished reading Anne of Green Gables. The novel, and sure enough, the anime just adapts that straight, like all the way to the end. Like that is exactly what that is,
Wow.
all the way through. Fabulous writing, very engaging. There are a few little tweaks they make to the story, which is kind of interesting to talk about. Of just kind of rearranging a few things here and there, just kind of for different flow, which I think does work better. But in general, it's basically just expanding on whatever's in the book. So things that are more or less in passing in the book, they kind of devote more time to. And there are a few episodes that are just okay that they just made that up for the TV series, and it's fine. So, for example, there's a episode in the TV series where they're all studying in the schoolhouse in the winter, and a storm blows in, and they're all kind of trapped in the schoolhouse. And there's a question of, do we go for help? Right? What are the risks of us leaving here, going for help in the middle of this blustery snowstorm? This episode of the TV series, not in the book. They just added that for the book, but it's very much in context and very much kind of fits with all the rest of the story.
What should we do, Mr. Donner?
No.
No! Don't ask Mr. Donner!
Mr. Donner.
It's a pretty intense episode, though. I mean, they're
Yeah, I would imagine.
the girls are at one point are kind of worried that they're not going to make it.
Oh,
So-
wow, okay.
Yeah. Now I remember you throwing in some of a few paragraphs from the book on Discord
Yeah.
a while ago. So the rest of the book is kind of like because we
That's
were
right.
remarking on how like because I haven't read it, but remarking on how like well written it is,
Yeah.
and how sometimes it's just a pleasure just to have something that's just like, oh, somebody knows how to work,
Yes,
knows how to use
absolutely.
words.
Absolutely.
Put them together in a
Wordsmith.
proper wordsmith, or use them in a sentence. Yeah.
Something that, for lack of any other name, might be called friendship existed between Marilla Cuthbert and Mrs. Rachel, in spite of, or perhaps because of, their dissimilarity. Marilla was a tall, thin woman, with angles and without curves. Her dark hair showed some gray streaks and was always twisted up in a hard little knot behind, with 2 wire hairpins stuck aggressively through it. She looked like a woman of narrow experience and rigid conscience, which she was, but there was a saving something about her mouth which, if it had been ever so slightly developed, might have been considered indicative of a sense of humor. That is a direct
Yep.
quote, and that's what it's like. I will also say one of the nice things about the book is that they establish directly that Marilla, and I'm sure we'll get to this if we ever go back to Anne of Green Gables, Marilla has always been told that children need to be brought up with great sort of moral education, and you kind of need to keep doing that. So every time she talks to Anne, she always tries to think of some moral to impart in her response to whatever Anne says to her, which is not at all helpful for you. So it's always, well, I told you so. Well, you really shouldn't do X, Y, Z. And it's like, come on. But they also establish that, and this is like word of God. Anne always sees Marilla as, and I think the phrase is strangely hard to please. But she never takes offense at. She never thinks Marilla's being mean. Marilla's kind of rough nature and so forth. Anne just sees as her attitude, and just kind of the way she goes about life. She's never beaten down by Marilla. So that's good to know. That Anne's not being depressed by what Marilla's saying. But yeah, it's
given Anne's backstory, Marilla would be hard pressed to make it worse than the life she lived before that. Oh Lord, the idea of Marilla as a joy compared to Anne's prior life.
I know, right?
Wow.
Well, and that's one of the kind of the themes of the book, and the story in general, is Anne finding relationships and building relationships over time. One of the more heartbreaking moments in the book, which I think is fair to say, is later on when she's a couple of years older. She's talking to folks, and the author says Anne had a peculiar peculiar natural gift for friendship. And you go, gods, and she hasn't had a friend yet until she reaches Green Gables. That's how few people in her life she had around her, and how few opportunities she had that this natural gift had completely withered for the first 11 years of her life. God.
Well, she was caretaker. All the
Right,
backstory to it. It just seemed like she could have been friends with the people at the orphanage, but that's such an up and down, and who knows what's going on. And every other experience she had, she was off somewhere in Bumble, who knows where, isolated.
Yeah.
And it's like
Taking care of younger kids.
Yeah, there wasn't anything for her to befriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, wonderful, wonderful book. Very glad. And I'll also say it's one of those things where you start reading it, and an hour later you look up and you go, "What? Oh gosh!" It definitely sets you in. So that, and then, I guess the other big thing is today I bought a van.
Oh, you bought a
You
what?
bought a van or
Yeah.
a band?
A van. Earlier today, I went down to a local used car lot and bought a Chevy van, which I plan to turn into my little sort of Eurocamp camper.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah.
Are you gonna get a stereo system with quadraphonic sound and a airbed in the back?
Yeah, and blare it out whenever I'm in nature. just
and have
really
like a huge
do the Bach
unicorn
and all that
painted
kind
on
of-
the
yeah.
sides.
Playing
Yeah,
Rush
absolutely.
all the
Uh-huh.
time.
Oh,
Totally.
Rush
yeah.
and prog rock.
Wonderful.
There you go.
Today's Tom Sawyer just like thundering through the area. Nice.
Da-da, da-da.
Exactly. So all of the parts and parcels of that will be coming over the next few weeks because, of course, that's going to take a while. It needs to be insulated. It needs. I've ordered a mattress. I've ordered all that kind of stuff. I'll be paneling the inside. That's the plan there.
Are you getting it like the suspension jacked a little and then reinforced so that you can at least kind of get off the beaten path a tad?
Not yet. I'm actually planning on going very slow with it. Because if you look up van life online,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you can get an oven, a microwave, standing sink, washing machine, all this kind of stuff, and just pack it in. And I just don't want to, go that direction like immediately. So I'm just gonna start
Yeah,
with
Have you ever watched Kara and Nate? They do the van life thing. So
Okay.
they do that, and it's just as you described it, and I'm just like, wow, Brent's gonna go travel the country.
and this is
Brent's traveling roadshow.
yeah. There we go.
Spreading the word of anime across America.
Exactly.
And Natasha
It's
Van
like It's like Johnny Appleseed with anime.
throwing discs out the side. Yeah, the window.
Winging them at people. Wing! Ow! What the hell was that?
It's Eurocamp. You love it.
You're a kid. What the hell is that? Cutie, honey. What the hell?
Yeah.
Stop hitting me with that. Do you, either one of you, remember back at a time in the great mists of history when they had post the 70s fuel issues, when people were still in that semi 1960s get to nature thing, and they had, I remember watching a guy who was doing camping life, and it had to have been the early 80s. And he came up with this device that he hooked up to his exhaust pipe, and it was an oven, so that the exhaust gas passed through the oven, like the box for the oven itself was isolated from the exhaust gas, but it heated up so that you could bake things in it, and it just bolted onto the exhaust pipe. And I was just like, so this thought occurred to me, Brent, to be like, wow, you could do that instead of a regular oven.
No.
So amazingly, amazingly, I think that was the germ of the idea of an episode of Wings. I don't know if you remember that show from the 90s,
Yeah.
where Lowell makes a thing where you can hook it up to the inside of your engine of the car, and you can put meat in there, and it'll cook it perfectly
Interesting.
as you drive around. So you drive around the island, and then 20 minutes later, you have perfect chicken wings.
Yeah, because
Nice.
that's not going to smell of motor oil or taste of motor oil. Yeah. Yeah, no,
Brent's van life.
there's a whole universe of all of this that is it gets pretty crazy pretty quickly. But yeah, we'll see. And in case anyone's curious, no, I am not going to live out of a van tomorrow. That's not where I'm going. Just yet.
Brent lives in a van out by the river.
Every article I've come across about van life makes that joke.
Yep.
Every single one.
It wouldn't be a van life article that didn't have that. Come on now. Like the checkout clerk's most hated phrase, beep, it didn't scan. Oh, it must be free. It's gotta be, it has to be done.
I've seen the Mythbusters episode. It's really interesting. Where they're cooking a Thanksgiving meal using a car. It works, technically. But
There's a lot of heat going on
Yeah.
there that you can cook stuff with. You just have to isolate it from the smells of the heat.
and do it in a way that doesn't fall off. Stuff like that. But yeah.
But still, that's pretty cool, though.
Thank you.
Got
Yeah.
a van. Got a van. And,
very cool.
And,
Got a van.
and, yeah.
And then so now figuring out how to equip it and all that kind of good stuff. And,
Anime archaeology blazing across
Yeah.
the backside of it.
no, it is going to be a plain white van.
Now, is it an actual like sprinter van or is it like a
It's a cargo van.
cargo van?
So-
Okay, cool.
Oh, wow.
So one of the
yeah, so you'll be
ideas-
able to.
Yeah. So there's the idea of what they call stealth camping. The idea is you can just drive around, go somewhere, and nobody knows that you are, parking and
Right.
camping, whatever.
Right.
Most WalMarts don't mind if you park overnight.
Right.
So you can just go there, park, sleep overnight, stuff like that. And so there's a lot of, and you should still go in and like ask management, make sure it's okay. But
Right.
yeah, so there's a lot of this. So yeah, I'm gonna try to make this as anonymous as possible on the outside. I have considered putting a fake company on the outside, and for example, making this an official Bonsai Institute support vehicle, something along those lines.
You have Yo-Yo Diver. Oh yes, you
Yeah.
have to. Because otherwise, it has to be Nerve.
Well, and that's the problem is that as soon as I do that, people are going to notice that and come up and bang on the side of the van. That's really funny! Ha ha ha! It's 4 a.m.
How about putting county coroner on there?
Yeah.
How about morgue recovery vehicle? I'll keep everybody away. They'll look in the window and be like, oh
No.
God, I can see a body
Yeah.
in there. Dude, it's
Yeah.
in a sleeping bag. What the hell's wrong with you?
That's the problem, is it'll attract the wrong kind of people.
I'm a resurrectionist and I need
Yeah.
body parts. What? What's going on here?
I'm very interested in what's in your van.
No,
Invite me
no.
in.
So we will see where all that goes. Y'all hear that? Hold on. It's okay. It's all right. It's fine. It's just, every week I forget my little remote, which would be helpful to have. Oh, the hat, right. You're absolutely right. There we go. Okay. We'll see how all this works. We have a slightly different setup than usual, so as you can tell. So hopefully all of the transitions will work today, but we will go ahead and start with that. Welcome to the latest anime news for the week ending November 13th, 2021. Starting with Netflix marching on with their live-action anime adaptations. The star this week was the upcoming adaptation of Eiichiro Oda's One Piece, with the reveal of the main cast members of the series. The official Twitter posted a video on Tuesday featuring members introducing themselves and their roles. 18-year-old Mexican actor Iñaki Godoy will star as Monkey D. Luffy. He previously appeared in a Mexican crime drama series. Japanese actor Makenyu, best known for portraying the final villain Inishi in the live-action Kenshin film series, will play Roronoa Zoro, which is a pretty darn good match. Nami and Usopp will both be portrayed by young American actors Emily Rudd and Jacob Romero Gibson, respectively. And British actor Taz Skylar will be Sanji. The Twitter also posted a message from Eiichiro Oda himself, who will serve as an executive producer on the series. He shared the cast was decided after many discussions involving people all around the world, taking into account their facial features, their aura, their voices and acting skills, the balance among the crew, and other factors. I don't know how many crystals were involved. Oda finished by commenting that it'll take a bit more time to get the show done, but they'll do their best to deliver a show that will be enjoyed by everyone around the world. Yeah. A little bit more time. So, chemistry probably, yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Their chakras aligned well, it's all good. Yeah, it's interesting. Do you think they're muted? Oh, come on. That's not possible. Shouldn't be. There's no reason they should be. We've got. Hold on. We'll get that working. Capture, that is one of those. Yeah, exactly. I need one of those. We will try that, and we will transition over that. Oh, I need the other one. Of course, it's not that, it's the other one. We will try that. And turn that on. Nope, we don't need that, but that should work. You guys talk? Not those? Okay, hold on. Interesting. What's the audio we need from that? Yeah, OBS is just not cooperating. Hold on. Otaku. Is this good? I mean, that should. Maybe it's another one. Hold on. Wait a minute. Okay, hold on. That thing. I need that thing there. The thing. The thing. The thing. Oh, the thing. I think it would be that thing.
That thing. Spirit Destiny.
Okay. How's that working, folks in chat? I am seeing spikes now.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us? Hello, is anybody in there?
on there?
I'm
Smile
seeing-
out
If you hear me.
Is anybody home?
Cool. There we go. Okay. Took a while, but we got there. So yeah, aligning chakras. We'll see what that means in terms of the crew of One Piece. Here's the question. Given Netflix's history with live action adaptations, and I mean there's they got some potential hits on there. Like the Kenshin live action final movie was great. The Bebop adaptation coming up looks solid so far. How on earth are they going to do One Piece live action?
They would have to pick a story arc.
It's got to.
But I mean, no, I don't mean length. I mean visually. You've got
Sci-Fi
Stretch
Channel
Armstrong
CGI?
as your main character. How do you make that work in live action and not look dumb?
Have you ever seen the Fantastic Four movie that has never been aired? The one that they did just to retain the rights?
I've not. No.
Okay, so what they did for Mr. Fantastic, who has
Right.
can stretch his arm.
Stretchy.
What they did is they made they put foam, colored it as the blue and white, and with like a paper mache fist at the end of it, and on a stick, and just extended it forward, and that was the stretch.
So you think that's what they're going to do this time?
Oh boy. That's a solution.
It's sometimes.
I'm
I
gonna
don't
guess
know.
it's maybe. You could green screen it. just green their arms and then just do some
Well, no,
some CGI of the
I
stretching.
I don't mean technically. Obviously, you can do anything with CGI, but
Yeah, but I mean that's the only. It's not going to look good, you know.
Yeah.
It's because it's going to be very awkward because Monkey D. Luffy is his arms don't just stretch.
Yeah.
He is
Right.
very mobile, very malleable. So you're going to make some compromises that I think people who are diehard to the series are going to be like, no,
Yeah.
just absolute hard no.
yeah, yeah. I don't know how you do it unless you pull back on that somewhat, and so you have him do it like once or twice.
Yeah.
But it's just not he's not doing it all the time. And obviously, in the anime series, he's not constantly stretching, but still.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. That's going to be a tough one for them, I think.
I wonder how committed they are to it. Are they going to do like a 12 part thing? Or are they going to do 6 and see how that flies and then make a determination? It's like, okay, we'll do this in six episode installments,
Right.
and we'll just see how expensive this is for the effects that we want to get, see whether people are happy with the storyline, and then cut it right off if we're not really getting the market share we're looking for.
They could do literally a whole new reimagining like they did almost with Death Note, and that may not be a thing.
So,
big stretching.
To answer the question, it will cover the East Blue arc, and it'll be 10 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could imagine him not eating the fruit and then not stretching, but that's kind of
Right.
Yeah, I can't imagine that.
that's very
It's really
convenient,
possible,
but it's terrible for the story.
Yeah, well, I mean that's what happened with Death Note. I mean they had Ryuk and they had the premise of the Death Note, but then
Yeah.
they changed everything else.
It's all written, so they know where they're going.
Yeah.
At least apparently.
Mm.
N-Man, I think you may be right in the chat. It might be something that they aim towards the non-fans, which would help. You don't have to make it
Right.
incredibly accurate.
Right.
Because in theory, if you stop and think about it, that's very true. Because if you sold it as here's an adventure of a bunch of different people on a ship and they're pirates, and you think swashbuckling, you think all this stuff. So if you know nothing about One Piece, that sounds like something you would watch and enjoy, maybe. And if you had somebody go, oh no, wait, his nose is supposed to be like 5 feet long, and he's supposed to be able to stretch his arms, and there's supposed to be this caribou bear thing that shows up at some point, and
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a bold move, and I wish them well.
Yeah. Best of luck.
At the end of this, I have a feeling a few months from now we're going to be going, choices were made.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Always the case.
Exactly. Also this week, a few stories we want to cover, perhaps not in massive detail. The classic Kamen Rider franchise launched a new manga this week called Shocker During the Day, and also revealed an anime will adapt the manga in 2022. Both are celebrating the franchise's 50th anniversary.
This thing's been around forever.
Yeah.
Wow.
The story tells the everyday life and struggles of the lackeys of Shocker, the villain organization of the original Kamen Rider series. So a little more goofy, a little lighter.
That is, if you guys want over the top nonsense, Kamen Rider is awesome. All I have to throw this out here is, in one of the earlier series, there is brain surgery as mortars are coming down and dust is flying from the sea.
Okay.
It's great. It's great fluff. I love it. It's great fluff.
Blackjack, you're a rebel. This week, Netflix revealed an anime based on Katsura Saiki's Kakegurui Twins manga to premiere in August with production by MAPPA. It's a spin-off of the original Kakegurui manga and is a prequel as well. It tells the background of how a side character named Mary Saotome got her start in the gambling school. Cloverworks is creating a TV anime of In the Heart of Kunoichi Tsubaki, a manga. This is called a No Boys Allowed female ninja comedy, and follows the titular character who, despite the rules of an all-female village, has a secret curiosity about men. Ooh. Wonder where that will go.
And hilarity will ensue.
Hilarity will ensue. The Call of the Night manga is also inspiring a TV anime. It's set to premiere in July. The main character is a human who often hangs out with a vampire girl, as you do. Though he's unsure whether it's his blood or something else that keeps her meeting up with him. Then, of course, a cute girl from his past appears to vie for his attention, and the budding undead relationship is really put to the test. So again, sounds like a very serious drama. Gung Ho Online Entertainment announced this week.
She gonna die.
Yeah. Or undie, or whatever, or unlife.
Well, if you're in the Negaverse and you die, you're alive.
Right.
So.
Yes.
The Ninjala Nintendo Switch game is getting a new anime series coming in January. It did be more involved than the Net Anime shorts based on the game. It's a multiplayer online game featuring a cast of colorful characters that use bubblegum-based ninja techniques, basically. So I think sort of Splatoon-esque. Just kind of a fun, I think a 4-on-4 kind of matches, kind of a thing.
I'll be honest, the only Splatoon I've seen is the Nendoroid figure
Okay, yeah.
that looks like a squirt gun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah, it's a fun game. Splatoon is that is. I've not played Ninjala, but it looks like fun. Netflix also revealed this week the Seven Deadly Sins manga franchise is getting an all-new 2-part anime film. The film is entitled Seven Deadly Sins: Grunge of Edinburgh, or Edinburgh, and will who knows the pronunciation of that? Could be a character's name in Japanese, whatever. It will focus on Melodia's son Tristan. Both parts will stream on Netflix sometime next year.
I didn't even know he had a son. I've lost track of this.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's terrible.
This week also brings us a few pieces of Gundam-related news. Bandai Namco Entertainment and Sunrise have announced a new smartphone game titled Mobile Suit Gundam UC Engage. It is a war simulation game in the Universal Century timeline. It will launch in Japan in the next couple of months. U.S. fans, at least in California, also have some Gundam to look forward to. The first ever Gundam-based pop-up installation outside of Asia is coming to San Diego Comic-Con, November 26th through 28th. The store will feature more than 150 items, including, of course, Comic-Con exclusives and other items that are only sold at Gundam-based stores or the Gundam Factory Yokohama. Finally, Netflix revealed a new concept art for the upcoming live-action Gundam film, and honestly, it's just a CGI Gundam in front of flames. That's all it is. I saw all sorts of articles going nuts about it, about how metal it looked and how amazing it looked, and it's a CGI Gundam backlit in front of flames. That's all it is. So it's like, it looks, it's perfectly fine, but it's a teaser image. Like, there's really nothing of shock there. It was also announced this week that voice actress Yoshiko Ota has passed away at age 89. She performed major roles including Leo or Kimba in Kimba the White Lion, Sapphire and Princess Knight, Akko in Himito no Akko-chan, and lots of others. She received the Tokyo Anime Award Festival's Lifetime Achievement Award back in 2016. Shogakukan's Big Comic Magazine has revealed an upcoming manga from Go Nagai, who is still alive, and his Dynamic Pro studio, telling the story of a business trip to San Diego that he and Osamu Tezuka took together in 1980. That's right. This is a thing that happened. Basically, Tezuka and the guy and some others, I believe, were invited to Comic-Con back then, and they went over like, okay, fine, and people knew who they were, and were like aware of this, and were hungry for Western comics, and it is widely considered to be kind of the beginning of the. Basically, Tezuka went back to Japan and said, "No, we can sell our stuff in America. Like it will sell over there," and that's what kind of what started manga starting to get published over in the U.S. Is that trip in 1980. Nagai himself is known for Cutie Honey, Devilman, Mazinger Z, all the great stuff, and Tezuka, of course, for Astro Boy, Gentle Emperor Leo, Princess Knight, so forth and so on. Sorry?
I said just the Great Tezuka.
The Great Tezuka, exactly. Last up, the Association of Japanese Animations released its yearly anime industry report this week. I have not dug into it, but at the high level, unsurprisingly, The findings show the global anime industry contracted by 3.5% in 2020, the first decrease since 2009, although there was the huge increase in 2019 to factor into there. Also unsurprisingly, the streaming market did increase dramatically in 2020, the only market segment to see growth for the year. Overseas anime sales also increased slightly in 2020 and overtook the domestic Japanese market for the first time ever.
Wow.
More detailed findings are within the news report in the description if you'd like to check out the specifics for yourself. So the industry chugging along, as is perhaps not surprising. And I'm just going to real quick, while we're doing this, before we end, I'm going to see if I can pull that up.
So is the global anime industry contracting? Is that like studios closing or people going out of animation, or is that consolidation of like little things together?
I don't think it's contracting in that sense, but who knows? I'm pulling up
Sales,
the
maybe?
PDF now.
Well, it said that there was the market increased, so that's up, but the anime industry contracted. Like,
Let's see here.
now, mind you, 3.5% is not anything huge, but just curious what that represents.
Is that production, or is that like producing new things, or is that just
Well, think about the background studio that did all the background matting and stuff for various. They went out of business, last year, I think? So it's like, I could see if you said, these specialty studios that did small things, they're getting consolidated or disappear.
The big thing I'm seeing here is the production minutes of TV animation decreased significantly. So basically, there are fewer minutes of anime being broadcast on television in 2020 than in previous years.
so it's a production?
Let's see
Wow.
here. So in 2018, there was the second highest amount of production minutes in history recorded. 107,006 minutes of anime broadcast in 2019.
Wow.
There's a decrease compared to the previous year. So 2019 had almost the same amount as 2012. In terms of the number of TV animation titles, 2019 had 314, down from 350 in 2018.
Oh.
Some factors include the deceleration of sales in the Chinese market. Also, the postponement of 2020 broadcast to delay delivery to China, while the episodes had to be delivered at once. Also, the shift of theatrical animations into streaming might be the cause, so more Evan Gunn and Rebo movies, and so on. And the report basically says this could also just mean that TV broadcast is becoming less dominant.
Obsolete.
Yeah, as a it's been considered kind of the thing everyone looks at, but maybe it's just not as much anymore. Interesting, some other things from the report. Let's see here. Unit production costs rose in recent years. Also seen the responses in questionnaires from some animation studios. They increased along with rise in employment and management costs, not too surprisingly. Although such an increase was partially attributed to the higher unit costs from major American platforms. In other words, Netflix is asking for higher budgeted shows and more stuff, and so we're paying more for that stuff.
Right.
Various factors at play. There's an interesting paragraph here. The survey, on November 10th, 2019, Japan Animation Creators Association published the report on a fact-finding survey about animation creators 2019. The survey revealed that the average annual salary of animation creators was slightly higher than that of employees working in the private sector across the board. Yeah. Compared to the fact that the average annual salary of animation creators was 1.7 million yen lower than that of employees in all parts of the private sector in the first survey in 2009, so a decade ago.
Okay.
Let's see. Considering the fact that the average age of animation creators is 7 years younger than of private sector employees, the actual difference in pay would be expected to be even wider. Also, additional earnings, including royalties, licensing fees, tuition, executive salaries, and others arising from illustrations, manga, etc., were probably not calculated in the survey. So if you're, on the side selling things at Comic Cat, so forth, that's not factored in. If such earnings were added, the average annual salary of animation creators could be estimated to reach 4.9 million yen, which would be close to the median of average salaries in all sectors. Although it's hard to establish a causal relationship between those two. Interesting. Now, granted, that means everyone. So animation creators includes directors, producers, character designers, CG animators, animation checkers, layout, key animators, finishing staff, everyone across the board. So that's interesting. That's interesting. And then just looking at the rest of the data here, nothing. Internet distribution continues to rise. OVAs continue to decrease. Merchandise actually saw a significant jump last year. Theatrical works continue to rise. Box office revenue, theatrical animation, rise. So yeah. And I will show you all, if I can. I'm going to try this. Can I close that? Probably not. Can I show a screen of it's gonna give me some issues here. Oh no, make that happen. If I go here, pull this over here. Expand it really big. Maybe we can do this. I can show you all the which countries consume the most anime. That's not bad.
Brazil. It's all Brazil.
Let me move this out of the way and then transition. So I'm now broadcasting Japanese animation in overseas markets. Orange is most, followed by pink and then blue. If anyone's curious. So, US big, Australia big, China big. Perhaps not surprisingly. Also big, Taiwan, Thailand, Korea, South Korea. And then it goes off from there. So we see Europe in general. And then bits from India, Mongolia, South Africa, Spain, etc. I'm just surprised Spain is that low. I expect Spain to be bigger. And then let me also zoom in on this. Trend of overseas revenues over the past 2 decades or so. And boy, doesn't this tell the story. The rise in the 2000s, the drop as a result of fan subbing and the whole collapse of the American market, and then the meteoric rise in recent years of the Netflixes of the world. That's a lot of yen. 1.2 billion yen, not bad. Yeah. It's actually interesting. I wonder how well Mugen Train did overseas.
Given the statistics there for Scandinavia, I wonder how it did in Finland.
Yeah.
Not apparently very well.
Exactly. Yeah. Pretty impressive. Cool. That is it for the news. We'll be back next week with more news.
Sweet.
All right. Welcome, ENIAC. That is a reference to a very old computer. So let's see here. Can I talk about something I like? Can I
No,
do that?
no,
No, I can't.
no.
Okay, that's a shame.
Of course.
Let me see if I can. Oh, I need to pull in a thing. Hold on.
To do the thing.
Thing, because of course, it's changed everything on me.
Of course. Wouldn't be Saturday night if it did.
Wouldn't be exactly. Oh, 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 oh. And then we will need the other thing. We'll be here in just a second, folks. I just need to
The
reset
images.
everything. Images and the sound is helpful as well.
Mm.
Often, being able to hear things. We try to let people hear things. We don't always achieve that.
We could try interpretive dancing.
Yay! You know.
The suggestion was made for sign language. Which I only know one finger movement that it conveys messages, and I'm not about to do that here.
So there's that. So then the question is, why aren't we seeing the thing that we should be seeing? That would be my question. Because we should be seeing
What
a thing.
did we not see
What did we
on
not-
the
yeah,
show
exactly.
tonight, Brett?
Because that's that. Oh, that's why. It helps if you actually put things the place they're supposed to be. There we go. Cool. Okay. So I just need to take this. Apologies for the confusion, everyone. We'll be ready to go in just a second.
I'll have my Gendo look going.
There we go. Perfect. Much appreciated.
You need to get your little angel cross
Yeah.
eye thing going on there.
And then this needs to be readjusted too. And then we can do the thing. I need to reset that, make it not as terrible. That's gonna, yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible, I tell you.
No mas.
I don't want terrible. That's slightly less terrible. That's decent. Okay. So that is far. Hold on. I clicked the thing and it didn't click the thing. It didn't click the thing I clicked on. All right. This took way too long for something that no one's going to care about.
We care.
We
Care.
We care.
We care.
It's a segment of the show.
Brent, we like you.
You're good enough. You're smart enough. And gosh darn it, we love
We
you.
like you.
All right, and then yeah, okay, we can make this work. Welcome to Brent's Anime Recommendation Corner, where I talk about anime that I love, and today I'm talking about Lupin III: Green vs. Red, one of the innumerable Lupin movies, which is quite unusual, because this is a Lupin movie about what it means to be Lupin III. This is a movie in which Lupin discovers multiple other Lupins in the world,
Huh.
and in which apparently there are copycats of Lupin running around. Which then turns into this whole, like, really interesting story about what it means to be Lupin III. Who is Lupin III? If someone came up to you and said, I am Lupin III, how do you know that's true? Right? He's the strange international
Yeah.
jewel thief. I could claim to be Lupin III. Maybe I am. It's really, really interesting. And it is a full-scale Lupin adventure. There's, exotic locales and excitement and such. But as the movie goes on, it gets wilder and wilder as it explores this question of identity and this question of kind of reality what is real and what isn't real, as we dive into things like, you know, is the original Lupin the Third even Lupin the Third? How much of him is a construct created by people around him? How much is his reputation him versus his actual actions? Right? How much of what people think is Lupin the Third is actually Lupin the Third? Does he do all the things that is claimed of him? Right? It's surprisingly deep for a Lupin the Third movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And there are tons of references to classic Lupin the Third stories as well. So you will get the little yellow Renault, you know, barreling along and going up a cliff, like in Castle Cagliostro. You get a lot of those little references going in the movie. It's really cool. It's really fun. And again, it's a full-scale Lupin the Third adventure to boot. All the classic budget, all that kind of stuff going. And just a lot of interesting things going in this one movie. And it kind of takes you on a ride. So a lot of fun, worth tracking down in one of the more unusual Lupin the Third adventures.
Now, where does this occur in this sort of Lupiniverse time? Is this like people said, what about Lupin's background? And it's like, okay, enough asking. Finally got somebody saying, okay, well, let's explore that. Let's not just have him do funny stuff. Let's explore what's going on. That kind of thing?
I think you misunderstood what I was saying earlier. Who knows? Right?
Yeah. So
That's the whole
there's
point.
actually, if I remember correctly, there's not a real resolution.
That is about
It's been a little while since I've seen it.
Yeah.
But it's not a real, like. Think of it this way. You know how you read about stories like autobiographical accounts that are told by someone who's known to be a liar? So you don't know what is true and what isn't true, but you have this autobiographical account.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's something I did for the channel the other day. I read a bit from something like that. So it's kind of like that, where you have the original Lupin in there, and he's telling part of the story, only part of the story, but you don't even know if what he's telling you is accurate or is true.
Exactly.
So like you don't really know. Right? Though.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is you have to place your faith in going, okay, the guy who's telling us this is the actual Lupin. We think.
Right.
But it does, to your point, John, it does dive back into his past to some extent.
Yeah.
Being, you know, the grandson of the original Lupin and all that. But I think it also, if I recall, Steve, and it's been a little while, I believe it also even references like the original French book that it's based on. Because there is a French novel about a jewel thief named Lupin, which was an inspiration for Lupin the Third. Which, by the way, if you ever go on Netflix, there is a live-action Netflix Lupin movie
Of the book.
of the French book. It was made in France as an adaptation of the French book.
Ooh,
Very interesting.
Okay.
So yeah, none of the other characters in it is just about the original Lupin. Like Lupin the First, technically. But yeah, it's really interesting. It's a really remarkable, unusual little film.
It sounds like it would be interesting, almost as like a live action film, like not based, not the one that's based on the French book, but which is a weird reference, but Zorro that had Anthony Hopkins in it, and Antonio Banderas, and how it was passing the sort of sword on to the younger kid to now become Zorro. And it's like, that's what you're sort of describing. It's like, okay, Lupin the Third, if this was a live action series, it's like, oh, this film makes perfect sense because you're saying, haha, but is Lupin the Third really Lupin? It could be anybody. You just assume the mantle of Lupin. It could be given to you. It could be just you take it over and people associate it. But it's like
Dread Pirate Roberts.
Lupin's. Yeah, I mean Lupin's a cartoon, so he'll be the same age forever.
Yep.
not that much of a worry about who's going to inherit the mantle.
Which actually one of the things they point out is that, no one could possibly have had all the adventures Lupin has had
Right.
over the past, 20 years, whatever many years it's been, right? It's like, well,
Yeah.
that's not realistic either. It's a cartoon, right? But, yeah. So it's a really fun film. I would say it's definitely targeted more towards people who are familiar with the Lupin franchise. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't make this your first Lupin movie, but once you've seen a couple, it'll definitely...
You get the gist of it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Is the cast of characters there? So his female
Oh,
friend,
yes.
what is it, Jigen?
Fujiko. Jigen is the guy with the gun.
Yeah. Who's his
Fujiko.
buddy with the beard?
Yep.
Yeah, Fujiko is the woman.
Woman.
And
His
Zenigata-
femme fatale, if you will.
Exactly. Yep.
Zenigata's the cop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Everyone shows up at some point.
I guess it would really be Lupin if it didn't have those people that way.
Exactly.
right.
Funnily enough, then we'll get off this. That was a problem with Castle Cagliostro. I think we mentioned this in the review that Miyazaki did not want to include several of the characters, classic characters in that, because they have nothing to do with the story, and he was basically forced to. He said, no, you got to have them all in there. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, fun film. There was no history this week.
Oh.
I checked my anime history calendar. There was an interesting sort of Japanese history thing. I'll see if I can pull it up here real quick. And I try not to do a week that's just all Japanese history, to make sure there's at least some anime in there.
Right.
But this past week, if my spreadsheet will load. It's right over here. That's right. November 1867. Yoshinobu Tokugawa, the shogun of Japan, resigned.
Yep.
Which ended the shogunate. Yep. Major restoration began quite a few years ago, opening Japan to the West and allowing anime to exist. So,
Yes.
thank you. Kind of. Sort of.
All the anime that had been pent up in Japan was finally released to the world.
Exactly, yes. All the proto-anime.
All the woodblock prints.
Yeah, exactly.
All the Amishibai.
The ones with the octopuses and the... Wait,
No, no, not that one.
No.
That was kept for domestic production.
There's an anime series I mentioned here before. Something Ron. Tsukigagi Ron. Carried by the Wind. Road anime, female samurai, female kung fu person going out on the road. And Edo period, and there's a moment where one of the girls goes in and there's a guy selling woodblock prints, like in a little shop, and she goes in, oh, this is really cool, and she picks one up and goes beet red. And puts it down, it's like, oh, it's one of those, Those existed too, those were for sale. Imagine that. But I have a question.
What did we learn on the show tonight, Brent?
On the show tonight, Brent. You still get better every night. I learned Evangelion can end in a satisfying way.
Yes.
It's not the end.
I said it can end, not that it did end. Yeah.
Oh, the Negaverse. That's why they introduced the Negaverse.
No.
It's going to be, it'll count down. It'll go EVA
3,
1.0 minus
There we
3.0,
go.
and
Yes.
ittle count down. Oh, wow.
Yeah, John learned
No.
parental relationship fraught with pitfalls. This is very, very much a lesson of the movie. It's true. John, how about you?
I learned that Netflix just keeps doing stuff.
Yeah.
and that live actions of things are good. It's good.
Yeah.
Keep trying.
Yep.
I hope they don't at some point in time just be like, wow, we can't make money out of this. I just hope they keep trying, because they're going to strike on something. Is One Piece going to be a super huge hit? I really hope it is. I hope it's really awesome. We'll see. I've learned that an international cast for One Piece will be also very interesting.
Yeah.
The actress that they've chosen. It sounds like it's going to be really kind of cool.
Yeah.
Jeez. I just learned it's another week we have anime. We get to watch Eva. We get to do a show. And it's a good week. It's a good week.
Steve, how about you?
Clearly learned nothing. I keep making the same mistakes over and over. No. Watching things at 12.
Yeah.
2:30, that's just not a good way of going about it. Especially so, it's one thing if you watch something like Ninja Nonsense or
Yeah.
it's not funny and that, but when you're trying to watch, Evangelion,
Of all things.
at the last
Yeah.
of all things, the last movie. At the end of it, I just felt like I felt bruised and swollen in the face, like I've just been in an MMA fight. But
Sure.
but no. What I've learned is that Evangelion can have, as everyone's saying, a good ending. It did have a good ending that was much superior to the series ending. Although the price is a 2x4 for 20 consecutive hours, or not consecutive hours, but for 20 hours being hit in the face with a 2x4 about various things. And that sometimes parents, for those of you who decide to have children, do not emulate Gendo Akari, please.
Oh, I don't know.
Please don't. Please, God, no. God, no, please. Because it's just all going to end badly. And introverts, and leave introverts alone. That's what I've learned. The last thing that I've learned is that when you have a day that starts off with your car getting broken into, it's kind of nice when you end it with an anime, kind of like Euro camp, laid back camp, where you can just kind of enjoy the softness, enjoy the anime, and just realize that you have so much anime to choose from and so many wonderful things to watch, and that'll make you feel good. So, hooray, anime.
I cannot think of a better way to end tonight. Thank you so much. Folks, asked in the chat, next week we'll be watching The Castle in the Sky. Popular Castle in the Sky. The classic Miyazaki movie. And then Howl's Moving Castle the week thereafter.
Nice.
A nice pattern match. So that'll be the plan. Thank you all so much as always. Take care. Have a good one. See you next week.
Johnny.
Oh, and OnCon coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
December 4th.
Oh.
OnCon
yeah.
December 4th. So
Woot.
check us out. December 4th. Online Anime Convention. Right here. Bye.